All right. I would like to welcome everyone today. I'm President Emily Stevens, and I call this regular board meeting of August 13th, 2026 to order. The time is 5:01. I'm going to open 1.01, the flag salute, but before we do our Pledge of Allegiance, I want to introduce our cadets from Clark High School. They're with us today. We have Cadet Stacy Herrera, Cadet Candy Delgadillo, Cadet Genesis Lorenzo, Cadet Camila Peralta Avila, and their instructor, Senior Chief Sharif. Trustee Esparza Stoffergen, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please stand. Ready, begin.
All right, before I open 1.02, is there anyone in the audience who did not get a chance yet to complete a public speaker card? Yellow card. Anyone? Okay. No more cards will be taken for this item. Let's go ahead and open 1.02, adoption of the agenda. Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I would like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as, start all over. I would like to make a motion to adopt the agenda with the following changes. Reference material has been added for item 3.06, legislative bill drafts. Delete item 3.09, public hearing on and possible approval and revisions of 2025-2027 negotiated agreement between the Clark County School District and the Clark County Education Association. Delete item 3.10, public hearing on and possible approval of revisions on 2025-2027 negotiated agreement between Clark County School District and Police Administrators Association of the Clark County School District. Delete item 3.11, public hearing on the possible approval and revisions of 2025-2027 negotiated agreement between the Clark County School District and Education Support Employee Association.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Trustee Bustamante Adams.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Madam President. I second that motion.
All right, let's vote. Okay, motion passes. We move on to consent agenda. Before I take a motion to adopt the consent agenda, we do have one for public comments. Miss Leslie Quinn, or do we have more? Trustee Biasotti? Discussion, I assume?
No, I wanted to pull an item for discussion. Not sure what you mean by that.
So we have governance policies that give us direction on how to pull these items. Have we gone through that process?
So I recently went through them. There were a lot of items bundled into the consent agenda, so I just recently, as of today, had a chance to really meticulously go through it. And for agenda item 2.16, I need a lot more clarity on that, so I would like to make a motion to pull that item for discussion.
So before we run the motion, I'm going to do public comment, and then we'll see if we get you a second. Okay?
Thank you.
Yep. So Leslie Quinn, please state your name for the record.
Ready? Good evening, trustees and board members. I'm here as a concerned citizen and parent who believes deeply in the responsibility we all share to ensure that students receive a strong, well-rounded education. I have concerns about the proposed voter education materials, questions 6 and 7. First, what sources is the voter education based on? When we teach students about voting, civics, and our democratic process, the information and sources we use matters. Parents deserve to know where these materials originated, who developed them, and whether they have been reviewed for neutrality, accuracy, and age appropriateness. Second, questions 6 and 7 are controversial. These questions go beyond simply teaching students how our elections work. When questions touch on controversial political or social issues, there is a real risk that students may perceive the classroom as promoting a particular viewpoint rather than providing objective civic education. Our schools should teach students how the government works, not tell them what political conclusions they should reach. Which brings me to my third concern. Are these questions appropriate for the classroom? We have to ask ourselves whether this material belongs in our K-12 classroom at all. Students are still developing academically, socially, and emotionally. Political topics can be discussed appropriately in an objective civics curriculum, but there must be a clear line between teaching about government and bringing political advocacy in the classroom. And finally, we must respect the belief systems and values families teach at home. Parents, not government institutions, have the primary responsibility for developing the values and political beliefs they want to instill in their children. Schools should not unnecessarily insert themselves into that relationship. If this district wants to regain the trust of parents and encourage families who have left the district to return, stop alienating parents. Listen to them, respect their concerns, and recognize that parents are partners, not obstacles. We all need to remember that enormous academic challenges facing our students. We have students who are struggling with reading, writing, mathematics, and other fundamental skills. We are too far behind to lose sight of our primary mission. No politics in classroom. Our classroom should be focused on educating children, not persuading them politically. If the district wants to provide voter education, I believe that conversation is more appropriately suited to adults, particularly students attending college who are old enough to vote and are preparing to participate directly in our electoral system. Our K-12 students need the fundamentals first. Teach them to read, teach them to write, teach them mathematics, teach them history and government objectively, teach them how to think, critically evaluate sources, understand our Constitution, and engage respectfully with people who disagree with them. Then when they are adults, let them make their own political choices. This is what education should be giving students, the knowledge and tools to think for themselves, not giving them someone else's political.
Thank you. Anna Binder.
Anna Binder for the record, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert. Welcome back. So I actually was going to super say that item number 2.17, I am very happy to see that interlocal agreement between PBS and the Nevada Secretary of State for civic education. As most of you know, I've raised 6 kids in this district, and my kids that are old enough to vote refuse to vote because they didn't really get a lot of civic education. So as much as even me as their mother annoy them to death about voting, they just won't even get involved. But as some of you know, I have another child who is very politically engaged, and he has volunteered on campaigns and really gone above and beyond to learn himself from other members of our community on how to be civically engaged and everything. So I'm really excited to see what that looks like. And Vegas PBS always does, I think, an immaculate job with their programming. So I'm really excited for that. And then I just also wanted to say how happy I am to see 2.19, the grant funds for us to help provide some opportunities for our students with Nevada Trip. So Nevada Trip is amazing, especially for our special education students, and I'm really excited to see where that goes. So thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I will turn it back over to my colleague to make her motion. I would like to remind my colleagues that while we have the ability, and I'll never stop you from making motions if you want to make a motion, we did approve our governance policies for a reason, and we need to follow them to the best of our abilities. So just a reminder on that one. Trustee Biasotti, make your motion.
Thank you, Madam President. Duly noted. I will go ahead and make a motion to pull item 2.16 for discussion.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Trustee Dominguez. Sorry.
I second the motion.
Okay, let's vote on pulling item 2.16 from the consent for discussion. Motion does not pass. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm gonna set my motion, but I do want to make a comment that I submitted questions as per the policy, and I just received them as of 3:05 today. So, you know, that was a very large delay in the process of receiving questions that I had in the consent agenda.
Madam President, point of order.
Oh, let me think this through. I would agree with point of order because we're not talking specifically on process. We're talking about making a motion on consent agenda. Well, you know, I'd like to turn to, because we have legal counsel for a reason. So I have a trustee that is making a comment about the process to get information around consent before she makes her motion. Technically, because it is an action item, discussion is technically allowed. I don't know if that would be a violation of, or if that would be point of order, or if she's allowed to say what she's saying.
You called for a motion, not a discussion item, so it's whether or not she's going to put forward the motion or not.
Okay, so stick to the motion.
I think you were right in your first inclination was correct.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Can I get a second? Trustee Bustamante Adams.
I second that motion.
Okay, let's vote. Motion passes. All right. Trustee Dominguez, please read the warrants.
Thank you, Madam President. Had to get my papers. Ratified warrants as listed in bills payable, transmittal, and board memorandum number 22627 in the total amount of $360,392,368. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, before I open 3.01, does anybody need to fill out a public speaker card? No? Okay, great. I will not be taking cards for this item. 3.01, we are going to do interviews and appointment to the Clark County School District Audit Advisory Committee. So are any of our candidates in the room? We have one. Yes, sir? Yep. If you want to come forward, sir, we're gonna ask you some questions, put you in the hot seat. Is there anyone on the phone? Mr. Coyne. So, and sir, could you state your name for the record?
There's a button.
There's a button. One will turn red, one will turn blue. You want the red one. There you go.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, cool. My name is Steve Maiello.
Can you say the last name again?
Maiello.
Okay. So, Steve, what we're going to do is we're going to go, we'll give each of you, you and Mr. Coyne, who's joining us virtually, an opportunity to answer a question. I want to remind my colleagues how the process works. I know we did this very recently. Each trustee can ask one question, either from the reference material or a question of your own. The same question must be asked to all candidates, so you can't single out anyone. And then if you have a second question, you'll need to place yourself back in the queue. So one question per trustee, and make sure that it is a question for all candidates. Okay? And we'll take turns, so you're not always the first person and you're not always the second person. All right? I will open it up for discussion and questions. Trustee Esparza-Stoffergen.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, first of all, for being with us and being a part of the process.
Thank you.
My question will be for both of you is, what types of questions would you ask when reviewing the annual comprehensive financial reports?
Okay, since I do have experience in this, actually, with this Clark County School District, where I worked for about 26, 27 years, the first thing I would look at is the external auditor's basically opinion, and see if there's any material weaknesses within that opinion. Next, I would look at the any type of conditions that were reported in the previous year, how the district actually implemented them in the current year. And then also the last piece would be at the general fund, since you have about a $3.5 billion general fund right now. Your ending fund balance, I would look to see what your actual funding balance is, and it should be 4% or more based on state requirements. I believe right now it's 4.5, but it should probably be higher than that. They should keep on building that up and see how they're able to, it's basically a rainy day fund, but that needs to be strong just in case there's any unusual events like, say, gas prices go up, that you have funds available to actually mitigate that issue.
Same question for you, Mr. Coyne. Do you need us to repeat it?
No, I have it. I just pulled over, so rest assured I'm not breaking any laws. One, I'd like to apologize for not being there right now. I should be there shortly. I was coming from the wake of one of our fallen officers. So I will be there shortly. But to answer that question, I believe that for most part, every question's a good question. If there's something that stood out to me as abnormal in the audit, something I didn't understand, I would ask about it. But for the work I've done in the past, I would usually compare the findings to the budget and ask questions to address those inconsistencies.
Okay, thank you. Next question, we'll start with you, Mr. Coyne. Trustee Cavazos.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to ask you, sir, how would you evaluate whether management has adequately addressed audit findings?
Mr. Coyne, did you hear the question?
Yes, sorry. I just unmuted myself.
Okay.
Yes, good question. Thank you. I would see what the corrective action was in the recommendations. I would follow up with management, ask them to meet with me to see if those corrective actions were implemented, and if not, ask why, and if they were effective or not.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Maeo?
Would you like me to repeat the question?
Yep, please.
How would you evaluate whether management has adequately addressed the audit findings?
Okay, well, depending on the type of audit, you have school bank audits and you have departmental audits. Since I worked in the audit department for 16 years here, what we would do is, based on the findings, there's different levels of reports. So some are not as severe as others, but there should be a follow-up by the audit group in a timely manner related to school banks. If, depending on the condition, if it's a severe condition, it should be earlier than if it's just the normal conditions that you see every day. But for departmental audits, actually, which I used to do, and I would actually work with the departments and the corrective action. I would work with them to see which is the best alternative to take to be able to correct that condition in the report. So by the time my reports went final, many times I actually already had their correction actions already in place, and then would go back again, in a timely manner to see that how it's working. And if it's not working, why isn't it working? What other steps do we need to take? What events have occurred since the last time I was there? So that's how I would review audit conditions.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your answers.
Okay. Next question, we'll start with you, sir. Trustee Barone.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you very much to both applicants for coming, by the way. It's a big deal for you to be bringing and willing to share your time for the public good. It's kind of a long question here, so
Okay.
if you need me to go over it again, but I think it's very pertinent. So, sir, how would you describe or shape the role of the Audit Advisory Committee as it relates to building meaningful community trust and transparency in CCSD, CCSD business operations, and CCSD's public responsibility as a fiduciary steward of public resources?
Okay. I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I knew it. I saw this one. Yeah, I'd be happy to repeat.
Is this one of the,
If you like, I'll break it up into two pieces, and you can either answer one and then the other, or just take a stab at it again. But it's kind of a big question here. And it actually has three parts. Again, I told you I'm not good with math. That's why we have this guy. How would you describe or shape the role of the Audit Advisory Committee as it relates to building meaningful community trust and transparency in CCSD, CCSD business operations, and CCSD's public responsibility?
okay, in regards to with the advisory committee shaping that, if I could only read my handwriting. Okay, from a transparency standpoint, the trust as a district, basically transparency is you're not hiding anything. So the district goes through multiple types of reviews each year. You need to disclose that. There's different types, besides a financial report, there's other state requirements that you have to do. You need to show the public that. If you don't show them what you're doing, they assume you're doing nothing. You also have a data, I believe, area on your website, and in the budget finance area, there's open book. Open book basically tells you about the different schools and different departments. What I'd like to see more is in regards to that, you need to, okay, you have a department. What's your goal? What did you accomplish? And how can you improve? So that from a business standpoint. And the last one was, I'm sorry.
Yeah, again, basically, you're doing this to, of course, ensure public responsibility as a fiduciary steward of
Right.
public resources.
Right, well, I want to see that the resources are being spent properly, but from a disclosure standpoint, I want to know, you need to disclose and tell me. I've had conversations with people over the years, they're like, well, my child is not getting adequate funding. Okay, but they don't know that, I believe it was NRS 388, that your child at each school gets different funding based on their needs. So you have enrollment and you have general normal, well, not normal, the general population, but then you have special ed, you have gifted and talented, you have ELL, and you have at risk. So those students, if that student's identified with those needs, more money goes to the school. So your child, but we need to tell the public that. So your child's getting funding. If they have different needs, the school district's pushing the money there. And that's, I don't know if people are looking at the open book or if people are asking these types of questions. They need to ask that type of question. My child has these different types of needs. How are you providing the funding so that you're able to teach them? Okay.
Mr. Coyne?
Yeah,
Same
absolutely.
question?
Absolutely. Heard the question. And I believe the most important part of that question is the, community trust and transparency. And being a public servant myself, I think that's the most important thing as well. So as far as the role of shaping community trust and being a fiduciary of public resources, sometimes just showing them or having the reports available to them isn't enough. They don't look at it. So I believe that having committee members who already have standing and the community's trust with a track record of giving back is essential. You can't gain the community's trust overnight. You gain it by being there for them for years of service and positive interactions. Myself, I'm a youth baseball coach in this community, as well as cross-country coach for my son's school. I'm the president of 2 local charities. I'm active on the board of a 3rd local charity. The goal of 2 of those charities is to provide scholarships to local children to go to college. They've provided local kids with hundreds of thousands of dollars throughout the years. I'm also a union labor leader with approximately 4,000 local members who trust me in the work I do. By continuing to serve this community honorably in these roles, I believe I could help bring trust and transparency to this role.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Coyne, the next question will start with you. Trustee Henry.
What would you do if you disagreed with the majority of the committee?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes, as being a part of a team, you don't always agree, but you have to be a good team player. So I would make sure that I respectfully voiced my concerns on the record to the rest of the team, and make sure my reasoning was on the record as well. But at the end of the day, I would respect that majority vote in the team.
Mr. Mayo?
Disagreements with the committee on an issue, I would explain my reasoning behind it with support. And if they want to go forward with it, that's fine, but we probably need to revisit. If it's not working, we need to revisit it and make any type of corrective action.
Thank you both so much for your responses.
Thank you. Steve, we'll start with you on this one. Trustee Satori? No? Oh, there you go.
Thank you. How do you elevate and illuminate the work of the audit? Oh, thank you. I hit the wrong button. How do you elevate and illuminate the work of the Audit Advisory Committee such that its discourse and its work are not perceived as rubber stamps, but as true accountability and engagement?
Okay, from a rubber stamp standpoint, I've been in audit over 22 years. I expect from an audit group some meat to the audits, and if there's anything that I don't believe is it's not a like I got you moment. Just what you need to do is check to see that they're responding, they're working with the people that they're auditing to make sure from a school standpoint or a department standpoint, how we need to address certain things. I wouldn't rubber stamp to say, go ahead and do it. The reason being is because I've worked in that department. They have audit programs, they have, what are they doing in regards to getting the job done? If I see that they're doing the same thing over and over again and you have no findings, why are you doing that? I'm gonna question, we need to be somewhere else, or there needs to be coverage somewhere else. So that's how rubber stamping, I'm sorry, but it's never been a thought. I would never do that. All right, thank you.
Mr. Coyne?
Yes, thank you. As far as the rubber stamping, something I wouldn't do, and having that perception, I believe, is more in lies with that, again, community trust and reputation scenario. So first off, I'd like to be prepared for all those meetings. I'd like to ask the tough questions instead of just listening and having no questions. I'd learn all the bylaws of the committee to see, what questions I can ask. As far as illuminating the work it does, I would use my standing and reputation within the community to vouch for and shine a light on the positive work that the committee performs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Coyne, we'll start with you on the next questions. Trustee Biasotti.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is, this type of volunteerism requires a selfless donation of your time and energy. What inspired you to apply for this?
I think for everybody in this room and how you guys were inspired for your job, it's the children of the Clark County School District. The work that you guys do, it does not go unnoticed. It's a hard and thankless job. And I'd like to give back in my own sort of a way. I'm a financial expert within my own union and within the Department of LVMPD, and anything that I can do to help the children in this community, I'm willing to do and to share my time with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayo?
Okay, you ask, why do I do this? I'm retired 3 years. I miss it. I worked in the internal audit department here 16 years. I worked in the budget department for 10 years. I'm a certified public accountant. I'm a certified internal auditor. I'm a certified fraud examiner and a certified information systems auditor. I want to be able to provide to the community, and I just miss doing that. I'm going to be, this is like the best job in the world because your clients are not big business. It's the children, it's the taxpayers, it's yourself. Those are your clients. There's no other business like that. So that's why I'm inspired to do this.
Thank you. And Mr. Mayo, you're going to start with the next question. Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is somewhat a two-part. So it's not on the list, so this is
no,
just
that's
me.
okay. I know.
So I would like to hear your experience in a public committee setting and also how you would bring in fresh eyes to this committee.
Okay, my experience in a public committee?
Yes, sir, in a public committee, a committee that you're going to be, it's going to be shown on publicly,
TV,
right,
yes.
advertised, yeah, and there's a big eyes here, right? So this is an enormous district.
Right.
And a lot of people, parents, educators will be watching, and so have you ever worked in a setting in that capacity?
I've worked at the school district for 25 years. I've been to these board meetings many, many times. I've been to the Bond Oversight Committee, the bond oversight. I've been to state meetings. Do I present up where you're sitting? No.
Yeah.
I've never done that. I've never had the opportunity. But now that I'm retired, I can. I've been asked to be on charter school committees years ago because I evaluated charter schools for like 12 and a half years. So I've been asked to be on committees, but it would be a conflict because I was actually evaluating the governance and their financial conditions. So I had to decline. So have I been up where you guys are? No. But can I do it? Yeah, because I have the experience and I have the knowledge. So, and you had a second part?
The second part was how you would bring fresh eyes to this committee.
I don't know how fresh my eyes would be, but with my experience within the school district, the people on the committee don't have my expertise within the school district. So from experience, I've seen different things over the years. So I would be able to ask questions that are very, very direct, because I've worked with it. So from fresh eyes, yeah, my eyes are a little bit bothering me right now, but I believe that would help the committee immensely.
Thank you. Same question for you, Mr. Coyne?
Yes, absolutely. And since I just heard the second part of the question last, I'll answer that first if it's okay. As a fresh set of eyes, I think that's the definition of me. I have no contacts or past within the Clark County School District. I've never been an employee of it. So I would be somebody from the outside coming in, looking at things fresh. As far as the public forum session, I'm the voice of 4,000 cops in this community. I'm on the news on a regular basis. I've testified at, PERS meetings, fiscal affairs meetings with the department, and it's something that I believe I'm willing and able to take on.
Thank you, Mr. Coyne. And for the first part of the question is if you've had any experience in public committee meetings in this type of environment.
Yes, and I think I believe the PERS committee meetings, the fiscal affairs committee meetings within LVMPD. I'm also lead negotiator for LVMPD and the city marshals and bargaining units, and those are public meetings.
Oh, I think you got cut off.
Mr. Coyne? Did we lose him?
I'm sorry, it broke off.
That's okay.
Did all that come through and was able to answer adequately?
We missed the last part of what you said.
I wish I was there. I'm like 10 minutes out. I want to get in a car accident. I will
That's
be there
okay.
as soon as you're done. I was on, Nevada PERS, public committee meetings, fiscal affairs meetings with an LVMPD, lead negotiator for a couple bargaining units in town, and they're all, public meetings. So I think I'd be able to sufficiently perform that role.
Thank you. And Madam President, since everyone's gone around once already, I'm ready for a motion when you're ready.
It looks like we have one more question. So, Mr. Coyne, we'll start with you on this one. Trustee Cavazos.
Thank you, Madam President. Applicants, I would like to know, it sounds like both of you have different types of experiences. One has never worked in the district, one has, and you're applying for a position that is very important in our district. What in your unique background makes you feel that you are the right person for this job? Because we've all had a chance to look at the resumes, but something that makes you uniquely qualified for this position.
Yes, absolutely. I could admit that, I am not, I don't have the best resume out of the people who are testing for this job. I don't have the same caliber of education and experience as the other candidates. However, I do believe I meet the minimum qualifications to be considered for this board. I believe my unique contributions to this board is what sets me apart. My standing within this community, the roles I play with the coaching, and all the charitable communities I'm on. I believe that having that outside person come in helps this committee achieve its goal of accountability to the public and transparency. Nothing says that like bringing somebody from the outside. I would bring in, all the trust that community has me now and apply that to this role.
Thank you. Mr. Morello?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes. I said that I won't repeat the entire question, but
That's
just the
fine.
gist of it, that just what in your unique experience, both personal and professional, as Mr. Quang just said, what makes you uniquely qualified for this from your life experience and your resume?
Okay. What makes me uniquely qualified is that I actually was part of the creation of the Internal Audit Department. When it became a department, it used to be a function. I actually was one of the members that actually created the first audit programs in the schools. We developed that. And then actually I was one of the first, well, actually was the first auditor to lead a departmental audit in the late 90s. And I know where the school district has been because it was a very different perception of audit in the late 90s, very different. I actually built, with my colleagues, a strong audit department where it was respected. And the difference is instead of people shying away from audit, they would actually ask for assistance. And that carried on with me when I went into budget because they had seen me. I've been in over 200 schools. They had seen me. They would ask me questions. Although I didn't work in audit, they would call and ask for assistance. Also, I have very, I have over 30 years of financial management experience. I worked in internal audit for over 22 years. I worked in budget for 10 years. I worked on literally every single budget here in some capacity. And I did compliance work, and I've been in the public sector operations for over 25 years. So very few people have that type of background. As an audit committee member, I would think that I would incur, well, public trust, just based on my background. I have the knowledge to ask the difficult questions, which if someone doesn't understand the district, you're not going to be asking the right questions. So you might be over here instead of over here. So that's...
Thank you. Thank you so
Sorry.
much. Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Bustamante Adams.
Thank you, Madam President. I don't have any questions for the candidates, but I do have a question, I believe, for the board liaison. Thank you, Mr. Caruso. My question is, it's a 5-member team, is that correct?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, Joe Caruso for the record. Yes, to your question, Trustee Bustamante.
And then can you tell me, in the application, it asks if, the name of the applicant, but also the trustee district and municipality. Do you know off the top of your head which trustee districts are represented?
Trustee Bustamante, Adams, to your point, I'd have to look. I'd have to
Okay.
double check to see, because we have had some members serve for a few years now, so I'd have to go back and actually see which district they fall in as
Okay.
a municipality.
Thank you so much.
Okay, seeing as there's nobody else in the queue, I will close discussion. Before I entertain a motion, we do have one person for public comment. Just kidding, they have rescinded their public comment. So I will take a motion. Trustee Dominguez had brought this up, so I'll let her go ahead and make the motion.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to motion to appoint Mr. Daniel Coy to the Audit Committee, Audit Advisory Committee.
For clarification, it's Dan Coyne, is that correct?
I'm sorry.
Yes,
Daniel
it's pronounced coin, thank you.
Coyne,
Coyne.
okay.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Do I have a second? Trustee Biasotti?
I will second the motion.
Okay, let's vote. Motion does not pass. I will take a second motion. Trustee Cavazos.
Thank you, Madam President. And I want to make sure that I do not pronounce your name incorrectly. I know Steve is the first name, but I would like to, can you say your name for me again?
Oh, I'm sorry. Steve Maiello. Maiello.
Maiello.
I have
just wanna
trouble
make sure.
pronouncing it, too.
Old English teacher, I hate to pronounce names incorrectly.
Well, I pronounce my name incorrectly anyway.
I would like to make a motion, Madam President, at this time to appoint Mr. Steve Morello to the open position on the Audit Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Trustee Barone.
Second.
Let's vote. Motion passes. Congratulations, Mr. Mayo. Yeah, that's.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I'd like to congratulate you. Good job. And I'd like to thank the rest of the trustees for interviewing us and doing what you do for the children of this district.
Thank you, Mr. Coyne. Thank you for being with us today, and thank you for putting your name in. We know it's, volunteering is never easy.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry, well, again, I wasn't there in person. I tried. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, Steve. All right, with that, I will close out 3.01. Before I open 3.02, does anybody need to fill out a public speaker card? Yes, no, maybe so. Nope. Okay, I will no longer be accepting cards for this item. Opening 3.02, Notice of Intent, Clark County School District Regulation 4294. We have staff coming up. Who's in charge of 4294? Dayhoff? There he is. Thank you, sir. It's all yours.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert. My name is Justin Dayhoff, Chief Financial Officer for the record. This item is a notice of intent to update Regulation 4294 regarding payroll processes and approval for all employees. I want to emphasize at the outset that this is not intended to establish a new payroll practice or materially change how employees are paid. Rather, this update largely codifies long-standing district practice and brings the regulation into alignment with the systems and processes we actually use today. The regulation was last substantively revised in 1993. As you might imagine, quite a bit has changed in payroll administration over the last 3 decades. The existing regulation still speaks in terms of physical payroll warrants and vouchers being delivered to employees, returned to the accounting department when they cannot be delivered, and similar paper-based procedures. Today, our payroll processes operate through the district's Human Capital Management, or HCM, systems, along with updated human resources, payroll, and supervisory processes. The proposed revision removes those outdated references and replaces them with clear expectations around the practices that are already in place today. Specifically, the regulation now makes clear that employees are responsible for submitting leave and schedule exceptions through that HCM system by established deadlines. Supervisors and site administrators are responsible for reviewing and approving reported time. Employees should promptly report discrepancies in hours, pay rates, or leave balances, and payroll corrections should be processed through that HCM, that Human Capital Management System, whenever possible. It also preserves the process for those limited circumstances in which a correction cannot be made electronically using the district's existing CCF 125 correction voucher. Finally, the proposed language more clearly establishes the responsibility of supervisors and site administrators to review payroll audit information and approve payroll reports so that we can maintain accurate employee payments and appropriate internal controls. So in short, this is a housekeeping and modernization update, but an important one nonetheless. Our written regulations should reflect the way the district actually operates, particularly in an area as fundamental as payroll. This revision takes a regulation written largely for paper-based payroll environment and updates it for the systems, controls, and responsibilities that exist in CCSD today, while providing employees and supervisors clearer guidance about their respective responsibilities. With that, I respectfully recommend that the board approve the notice of intent to amend Regulation 4294.
Thank you. I'll open it up for discussion. Trustee Dominguez.
I was ready for a motion, but if we're.
Okay, let's give it one sec, see if anybody has any questions for Mr. Dayhoff. Seeing none, I will, Trustee Bustamante Adams. Nope, motion it is. All right, Trustee Dominguez, go for it.
Thank you, Madam. I think we're just excited that this is happening, so thank you. I'd like to motion to approve 3.02. Thank you, as written.
Thank you. I'll take a second. Trustee Bustamante Adams.
I second that motion.
Okay, let's vote. Okay, motion passes. And with that, I will close out 3.02. Thank you, Mr. Dayhoff. Before I open 3.03, is there anyone who did not get a chance to open a public speaker card? Going once, going twice. Okay, I will no longer be taking cards for this item. Let's open 3.03, opening of sealed bids. I will turn it over to Mr. McLaughlin.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, Brandon McLaughlin, Chief Facilities for the record. Tonight, we're going to go through a very exhilarating open auction process. It can be lively, but it won't hopefully will not be. But cell tower leases is a new area we are exploring into. So many of you know we have many lands across the county, and we saw an opportunity to pilot this opportunity to offer our vacant space land where it could generate us revenue. And so that's very much what this process is intended to be, is that we have spare space at West Career and Technical Academy and 3.04. We're going to do the same process for food service, where we can generate revenue off of those lands by state statute. That goes into what's called the Buildings and Sites Funds, which then can be used for capital improvements such as air conditioning improvements and other improvements at our school sites. So again, an innovative opportunity to leverage some of our real property assets. But we're going to walk through the process to date. And so we've talked about there's 3 steps within any sort of disposition of land. And so the first step was approved on July 11th, and that was to establish the value of this property. The resolution to lease was put forward to the board on July 1st, 2026. And today we're on step 3 of the statutory process, which is the opening of bids and resolution of intent to accept those bids for lease. So I'm going to allow Mr. Chris Dingle, Director of Real Property, to walk us through the next 3 steps here.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, Chris Dingle, Department of Real Property Management. The next step is to open the sealed bids, and of which we have received 1 sealed bid for the West Tower, and it's actually this one right here. So I will open it and 2 envelopes. It's from Diamond Towers 4 LLC, and they bid $2,800 per month, which is the established value. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Madam President, to call for oral bids. And The oral bids are required to be 5% more, which would be $2,940 per month.
Thank you. And just for clarification for the board, what was the appraisal value that it cannot go under?
$2,800.
All right, good to know. Okay, so with that, I call for oral bids. Okay. Seeing none, I will make the motion to accept the bid of $2,800 made by Diamond
Diamond Towers 5 LLC.
Diamond Towers 5 LLC to lease 1,600 square feet of property at the West Career and Technical Academy for a cell tower and associated ground equipment. Do I have a second? Trustee Bustamante Adams?
I second that motion.
Thank you. Let's vote. Motion passes. Thank you. Stay put, because we got one more. So I will close out 3.03 and open 3.04. Also, just for the audience's edification, there's nobody signed up for public comment on these. 3.04, opening of sealed bids for the resolution acceptance of bid offer to lease real property for the food service warehouse.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, Brandon McLaughlin, Chief Facilities. For the record, we're going to walk through the same exact process we just did on 3.03, except the location has changed on this one. So this is up at Food Service Warehouse in the northeast portion of town. There is a vacant corner of our property that we intend to lease for the same innovative opportunity we previously described. So I'll turn this over to Mr. Chris Dingle.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, Chris Dingle, Real Property Management. We also received one sealed bid on this property, and I will open it right now. Okay, it's from Coal Creek representing Verizon, and it is for $2,400 per month, which is the minimum, or which is the appraised value that was established by the report. And with that, I'll turn it back to you to call for oral bids, and that oral bid shall exceed the written bid by 5%, which is $2,520 per month.
Okay, with that, I will call for oral bids. Seeing none, I do see a trustee in the queue, so I will allow discussion at this time. If you have a question, go ahead, Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is how this is, I've never encountered this procedure. And so is this a common procedure we're doing with different leases for property, or is this an overall way we're doing bidding now, or how this has come about?
Brandon McLaughlin for the record, and I'll turn it back to Chris for more detail, but this follows the same process we walked through about a year ago on the disposition of property, and it's a statutory process outlined for this specific type of transaction, which establishes, like I said, the 3 steps that are required: establishment of the value, the resolution of intent to sell or lease or otherwise dispose of those properties, as well as then today's activity, which is the opening of bids portion. So if Chris wants to walk through, maybe we're not alone in this process. Other municipalities do a same and similar process.
Thank you. Chris Dingle for the record. It's a process that's in NRS 393. Now, 393 is exclusively for school districts in the state of Nevada. However, municipalities have a different section of NRS, and they follow the same procedure where anytime they lease or sell property, they have to do the same thing. You establish a value, there's a resolution, it has to be posted, it has to be adopted, it has to specify the manner in which sealed bids will be accepted and allow for oral bids, and that's the same procedure that state dictates that we're following right now.
And just one second question. What is the time frame that it is announced to the public that it's open for bidding?
It's actually in the resolution that you adopted in your July 1st meeting. It specifies that, the time and date of the meeting, and it can be I think it's 30 days. is the minimum. We have to publish the notice, copies of the resolution have to be published in a newspaper for 2 weeks, which we use the RJ. It's in the legal filings and legal notices. We post the actual resolution in 3 public places. If you look in the back, when you leave here, it's posted on the bulletin board there. And so that's how it works.
And it must be postmarked in 30 days?
Not postmarked, the publication, but the bids can't be opened. It has to be at least 30 days. So it's generally 1 month in between the meetings is what you do. And if the resolution that was adopted specifies, the meeting at the Edward Greer Center and the address, and then 5 o'clock, and sealed bids have to be back to the real property department. And we had a deadline, which was yesterday at 4 o'clock. And you can see, people did send them back to us, and they were sealed and everything, so.
Got it. I just want to make sure it's not like the elections. We're not taking
No,
things
no,
retroactively.
it's an NRS process, and we follow it. And like I said, I asked them to double envelope everything, and it came back that way so that no one would make a mistake of opening it or anything, so.
Thank you.
Trustee Esparza Stofferkin?
Hi, thank you. This is my first time going through this, so it's exciting. 2 parts to this question. First part is asking you, what is the life of the lease, like the time amount? And then secondly, what is the potential revenue earning, so we can see how much money the district might accumulate as a result, potentially, if this does get passed?
Chris Dingle for the record. This is just the award, the resolution to accept the bid. There will be a lease that will be brought back to you. The resolution did have an exhibit in the back. It's a 20-year lease with a 5-year extension. It's going to be for the amount of the bid if it's accepted. There's a 2% escalation clause, and we'll negotiate the lease and bring it back to the board to adopt.
So you could not give us kind of a price amount, a range, an estimated?
Excuse me, I'd have to get a calculator here.
Yeah, it was tough to forecast because we didn't know what the bid amounts were going to be. But if I'm just doing the quick math, $2,500 times 25 years, we're 62,000. Yeah. Yeah. It's 2,500 times 12 times 25. 750,000.
And there is a 2% annual escalation, so it will go up.
Trustee Brown?
Yes, thank you very much. I just had a quick question. I scanned through the terms really quick, but I don't remember if the person that wins the bid, are they allowed to sublease after the fact? I mean, once you've got a tower, hey, there's lots of room on there. It'd be really easy to go ahead and put a radio transmitter up there and so on and so forth.
Chris Dingle for the record. It's called a co-location, what they do on these towers, and we do have a co-location fee associated with them.
Oh, cool. Hey, I hear an advertisement here. That's a joke. People look at me kind of sus.
Thank you. Trustee Bustamante Adams.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is similar to the life of the lease. Now, can you remind me, I know it's a pilot, and so do you have measurements for the pilot? You don't just have yes or no. And when will you evaluate if this is advantageous for the district?
Brandon McLaughlin for the record. We don't have any exact parameter around that yet. It's really about the process for this. So this, like you've shared, this is kind of the first time we've gone through this sort of a process for the lease of it. And so we wanted to get that right, that we get the how done right. And then I think the metrics downstream would be, is it obtaining the revenue that we would expect? And is it any meaningful revenue? And so I would say we're at least a 5-year mark on that to really reevaluate. And then we'd go probably in 5-year increments to that effect after that.
Thank you.
Trustee Esparza Stofferkin?
If there's no further discussion, I'm ready to make a motion.
Is it Coal Creek or Cold Creek?
Coal, like the rock.
Okay, I'll take the motion.
So I'd like to make a motion to accept the bid in the amount of $2,400 made by Coal Creek, represented by Verizon, to lease the 2,500 square feet of property at the food service warehouse for a cell tower and associated ground equipment.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Trustee Barone?
Second.
Let's vote. Okay, motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen. It's much more painless than I thought it was going to be. All right, and before I open 3.05, is there anyone who did not get a chance to complete a public speaker card? Going once, going twice. Okay, I will no longer be accepting cards for this item. We don't have anybody, okay. So I need to read something before we, as we open 3.05, I'm going to read this, and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Dayhoff. This is the time and place that was published on July 31st, 2026, to conduct a public hearing on, discussion of, and possible action on approval of the 2026D Medium-Term Bond Authorization Resolution, authorizing the sale and issuance of medium-term obligations in the amount up to $37 million in order to finance all or a portion of the cost of acquiring, improving, and equipping school facilities, including technology equipment and facilities equipment. At this time, the floor is open for public comment. If you wish to speak on this item, please complete a public speaker card. Okay, seeing there is nobody, I will close the hearing and open it up to Mr. Dayhoff before we make a motion.
Good evening to Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, Justin Dayhoff, Chief Financial Officer for the record. As the district prepares for its next cycle of capital financing, this item today accomplishes two things. First, it provides formal notice to the public of the district's intent to issue these bonds and provides an opportunity for public comment, as you just indicated. Because repayment of the bonds may utilize district tax revenues, a public hearing is also required as part of this process. Second, following this hearing, the resolution before you authorizes the issuance of up to $37 million in medium-term bonds. Medium-term bonds are an important part of the district's capital financing strategy. They allow us to finance assets that have a useful life of several years rather than paying the entire cost from a single year's operating resources. Historically, those investments can include buses, white fleet vehicles, and technology equipment, but this particular issuance will not include buses or white fleet vehicles. These proceeds are intended for technology-related capital needs. Examples include the regular replacement and infrastructure around school LAN and WAN equipment, servers, telephone systems, intercom systems, and similar technology infrastructure. Many of these assets operate on approximately a 5-year replacement cycle, unless they have already been replaced through another project or capital investment. The bonds would have a term of approximately 10 years and are secured by legally available district revenues, including room tax and real property tax revenues. This is therefore not an expansion of the district's operating budget. It's a financing mechanism that allows us to responsibly replace and maintain essential technology infrastructure over the useful life of those assets, while preserving our operating resources for the day-to-day work of our schools. Following the required board hearing, which we are in now, we recommend approval of the 2026D medium-term bond resolution in an amount not to exceed $37 million. With that, we recommend approval. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Mr. Dayhoff. I'll open it up for discussion. Trustee Barone.
Yeah, Mr. Dayhoff, thank you so very much for presenting this. Right now, what's our bond rating?
We have a AA- and an A+ from Moody's and S&P, respectively.
Your kung fu is very strong. I already knew what it was. I just wanted everyone else to know. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Trustee Dominguez?
Thank you, Madam President. My question, I have one question I had and then another question I received from a teacher. So is this equipment also going to our older schools, not just the new schools that are being built?
Trustee, thank you for the question. Yes, we work with our TIS team to identify replacement strategies so that these refreshes go in accordance with need and demand, and they're distributed across the district as a whole based on those same.
Thank you. And my second question was for the technology that it's being purchased. Is central staff working with the schools to making sure that it's the equipment they want? For example, like theater, if they want a certain lighting or if they want a certain type of speakers, yeah, we want the best, but we might work in collaboration with what is in the budget.
Trustee, thank you for the question. Again, Justin Dehoff for the record. Yes, so with regard to these, we wouldn't be talking about the theater lighting. We use excess statutory reserve for those, but in those cases and in these, we work with our schools and school partners to identify both the types and the cadence of replacement and refreshment.
Got it. Thank you.
Trustee Bustamante Adams?
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Dehoff, in your statement, you said, and help me out, that you can leverage the opportunity of these assets over different funds, so not just the midterm bond. Did I understand that accurately? And if I did, then the question is, how do you keep track of it so that we maximize the amount and leverage it across the entire operations of the school district?
Thank you for the question, Trustee. Again, Justin Dehoff for the record. We work with this on two levels. So as you mentioned, the fund source matters. So these are capital funds, so that doing so and allowing us to amortize or capitalize these expenditures over multiple years means that we don't have to use precious district general funds for that effort. And then to the previous question as well, we work with the schools and with the technology and information services teams to make sure that we're replacing them in a cycle that matches the need at the school level.
Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Esparza-Stoffergen?
Thank you, Mr. Dehoff. As mentioned before, we had, public commenters actually thank you for listening to the needs because of the fact that the funding may not be at certain schools. My question is this. So, and I did receive it prior to this, is that perhaps a school has something encumbered or a work order in to replace. I'm just giving an example, bleachers. I don't even know if bleachers are allowed to be used to be replaced with this funding source. Is there a process for them maybe not to have to use carryover funds or school funds? What does that process look like for schools on how and who is going to be able to have access to these new projects?
Trustee, thank you for the question. And I want to be clear here that these are limited to the technology infrastructure investments, not the excess statutory reserve. But broadly speaking, we work with the teams to identify whether something's coming out of their individual site-funded projects budget, or if it's something that comes more broadly through central office support as part of the modernization efforts.
Seeing no one else in the queue and no public comment, can I get a motion? Trustee Cavazos.
I'm sorry, I was going to go ahead and let Trustee Esparza-Stoffergen go, and I was going to second it.
She's not in the queue.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I would like to make a motion to approve item 3.05 and public hearing and approval of the 2026D medium-term bond authorization resolution.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Trustee Bustamante Adams.
Thank you, Madam President. I second the motion.
Thank you. Let's vote. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Dehoff. And with that, we will close out 3.05. Before I open 3.06, does anybody need to fill out a public comment card? Going once, going twice. All right, I will no longer be accepting cards for this item. And with that, we will open 3.06, 2027 legislative bill drafts.
Good evening, members of the board and Superintendent Ebert. I'm Kirsten Sear. I have the pleasure of serving as the Chief Community Engagement Officer. And today I am joined by Dr. Bradley Keating, Associate Superintendent, Nick Ciccone, Executive Director of Government Relations, Anna Adkins, Director of Government Relations, and of course our Chief Financial Officer, Justin Dayhoff. Today we are presenting a discussion on our proposed 2027 legislative bill draft requests and key legislative updates for a final board vote before we submit. Thank you for the additional direction that you provided to us on August 5th. Today, August 13th, marks the day of our final BDR selection. Following this, our final bill draft requests are due on September 1st, 2026. Between now and September 1st, we will work with stakeholders and the superintendent to solidify the language to ensure it aligns with the board's intent given here today. Moving into the fall, all local government BDRs must be pre-filed and posted by the Legislative Council Bureau by November 18th, and we will formally adopt our overarching legislative platform in December of 2026. As a reminder, when evaluating potential proposals, staff weighs several factors that we'll discuss tonight: alignment with board priorities in our strategic plan, overall fiscal impact, stakeholder feedback, and the political capacity and viability required to pass each measure in Carson City. On this slide, you will see the 6 primary areas generated from our initial June board meeting: special education funding, pre-K and early childhood literacy, facilities control, transportation funding for open enrollment, state budget process updates, and standard space grading. Tonight, we'll outline our specific staff recommendations across these topics. Now I will hand it over to our Chief Financial Officer, Justin Dayhoff.
Thank you. Starting with special education funding, this directly aligns with our strategic plan priorities of academic excellence and safe and supportive schools. The estimated statewide fiscal impact over the 2-year biennium, inclusive of both options you see in front of you, exceeds $480 million. That amount comes from our current general fund transfer, which, as we've talked about in budget hearings, is about $176 million, but we only represent 73% approximately of the student population of the state. So when we extend that it comes out to more than $480 million over the biennium. Because of the feedback we received at the August 5th board meeting, staff recommends proposing a formal CCSD bill draft request with 2 potential options. Option 1, a more limited option, seeks an increase in the state education funding of $5 million per year statewide to offset the demand on the pupil-centered funding plan and provide additional support for the special education weight. This aligns with the Commission on School Funding's recommendations around establishing a single special education weight of 1.34. Option 2 would request the state to fully fund individualized education programs at $235 million per year statewide. We also want to acknowledge that these asks come with both a high dollar amount and a high political capacity needed to get them across the finish line. Next, regarding the state budget process updates, budget fluctuations during the school year create severe operational challenges and impact and disrupt the classroom, which matters most for our students and our families. Accordingly, staff recommend a CCSD bill draft request with 2 parts to it. Part 1, base state funding to base our state funding on the prior year's October 1 enrollment count rather than current year quarterly fluctuations, which would in turn prevent disruptive mid-year staffing and program cuts. And it would also increase transparency into the budget process by creating a tentative budget to final budget sequence that allows for meaningful public and board engagement in the budget process. Part 2 would remove the as practicable language from NRS 387 in the pupil-centered funding plan to establish a true statutory minimum funding level for public education, one that is established regardless of broader economic conditions. As you may recall, currently Nevada is 47th out of 51 in per pupil funding in the country and about $5,000 per pupil below the national average. Now I'll hand it over to Dr. Bradley Keating.
Thank you, Mr. Dayhoff. Brad Keating for the record. As we move to that one over there, as we move to pre-K and early childhood literacy, we've identified 3 separate program priorities. Number 1, continuing $24 million in funding over the biennium for early childhood innovation literacy programs. Number 2, providing steady funding of $2 million over the biennium for early childhood interventions. And number 3, increasing the funding weight for pre-K students from 0.6 to 1.0 to fully support pre-K programs statewide. We are working with a sponsor that we've already identified to potentially bring that third option forward in a separate bill. Combined, the proposal carries an estimated 2-year statewide fiscal impact exceeding $26 million. We have an idea of cost for early childhood education program costs from the appropriations included in Senate Bill 460, but we'll need to work with the bill sponsor to determine the fiscal impact for the pre-K weighting increase. Staff recommends working with the legislative sponsor rather than potentially utilizing a district BDR, and we have identified that legislator that was already planning on carrying the 0.6 to 1.0 bill. On the next slide, we will talk about open enrollment transportation funding, which aligns with career-connected learning. The estimated fiscal impact is over $14 million over the biennium. Staff recommends including this in our overall CCSD legislative platform. This initiative would maintain or increase 2026-2027 funding levels to reimburse families who use their own funds to transport students from zoned 1 or 2 star schools to 3-star or higher schools chosen through open enrollment. So again, this was part of Senate Bill 460 in the last legislative session. It provided $7 million for the second year of the biennium, the one we are currently in right now. To give you an idea, we launched our open enrollment transportation initiative just over a week ago. As of 12 p.m. today, we've had over 2,252 submissions of people asking for to be a part of this program. We anticipate more coming in before our September 4th deadline. So we're really seeing a need and a lot of movement in this area to provide transportation funding for our students. I'll now pass it over to Ms. Adkins.
Thank you, Brad. For the record, Anna Adkins. We've discussed retaining local control of our facilities, and our recommendation is to include this in our legislative platform. Our focus here would be to be protective, so guarding existing statutes that preserve local school district authority over the CCSD facilities and property decisions. For standards-based grading, we also recommend placement on our legislative platform. This proposal would seek to identify a bill sponsor to require the Nevada Department of Education to study national best practices and define parameters for a high school pilot program. And if I may, as you asked Trustee Dominguez, I think it was you at the August 5th meeting, there is no pilot program for standards-based grading. There is a pilot program for competency-based learning, and Washoe County is looking at expanding upon that. And now I will pass it over to Nick.
Thank you very much, Anna. Finally, staff is currently reviewing potential updates related to Senate Bill 460 from the 2025 session. Key areas under internal and stakeholder review include, but are not limited to, streamlining evaluation processes by removing the 3% evaluation requirement for each associate superintendent, replacing statutory performance improvement plans with CCSD's educator assistant plans, granting superintendents flexibility to replace principals in underperforming schools while giving incoming principals adequate time to drive turnarounds, and embedding the science of reading foundational literacy skills in in-sheet teacher prep coursework by July 2028. In terms of next step, our government relations team will finalize and submit our local government BDR forms to the Legislative Council Bureau prior to the September 1 deadline. Following that, required pre-filing will occur on or before November 18th. As alluded to by Anna, Washoe County is looking to sponsor a bill related to competency-based learning and current rigid seat time requirements. Their board liaison will work closely with their contract lobbyists and the Legislative Council Bureau to finalize the language. Thank you, and we are now open to any questions or discussion from the board.
Thank you. I will open it up for discussion. I would like to remind everyone that that this is an action item. We've got to narrow this down tonight. So please ask all your questions and let's try to make some decisions. Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to start by saying I really like the way we did this presentation and the little thermostat that we have on the side here. I really appreciate just kind of knowing where staff is and also the fiscal impact, because these are questions we just keep getting repetitive on it. So I really appreciate adding that part. And then I said thermostat, but the factor and analysis, how we are. So I appreciate where we are, because it also has political capacity needed to pass, and I appreciate it saying low, medium, high, so I really do appreciate that. So I'll start with my first question is the ramifications. So with these BDRs, something that I've been pondering is, we are kind of having, will we have an enormous effect on other districts if we start moving around the budget language, if we start moving around, I mean, even like the special education funding, will we start moving things around in a negative way for other districts, or hopefully a positive way?
Justin Dayhoff, Chief Financial Officer for the record. With regard to the state budget process updates, we've had the opportunity to work collaboratively with my partner in other districts like Washoe County to talk through what this could be like and to thought partner on developing this budget bill or proposed budget bill. The timelines as they are currently put all districts across the state into a position where they cannot make, for example, the tentative budget to final budget a meaningful process, right? We bring that forward in April, and then we come right back for the June budget. And so when we talk about public transparency, how transparent can it actually be, and how meaningful can that engagement be between tentative and final versus a rubber stamp, if you will? So we recognize both that would present new opportunities for districts really to actually improve upon their budget process. And similarly, declining enrollment is not limited to the Clark County School District. Declining enrollment exists throughout the state in our large districts and our rural districts. And so by basing our enrollment for the purposes of state pupil funding on October 1 of the previous year, it effectively deploys a hold harmless for all districts across the state and allows them to work strategically, to adjust for their workforces, to give more time and notice as a part of the budget process when there are and if there are going to be reductions, rather than having to disrupt the classrooms that students are in the middle of the year.
Thank you. And my second question is for, and I'll leave it as two questions, is for the special education portion of this. I would love for someone to explain to me less academically and a little more like you're talking to a parent. So how would we explain to parents the funding, or how this BDR will work with special education and where the money will go?
Justin Dayhoff, for the record, thank you again, trustee, for the question. Currently, an IEP is a contract. An individualized education plan is a contract, right? We have to provide the services that are identified within an individualized education plan, regardless of whether or not the Clark County School District receives money for that, whether that's through the federal Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act or statewide funding. We still have to provide that. That's why each year, currently, we transfer what will be this year in fiscal 27, about $176 million out of the general fund and into our special education funding so that we can meet those requirements. So part of the need and the importance for addressing this comes from the fact that we have to provide these services no matter what. And this would give us the opportunity to adjust and see that right size within state law so that we weren't robbing Peter to pay Paul, if you will. That being said, you are absolutely right that when it comes to the state education fund, robbing Peter we do have to rob Peter to pay Paul under the current state budgetary plan, the People-Centered Funding Plan, absent additional revenue targeted into that fund.
Thank you. And can I ask a follow-up? I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll go back around. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Bustamante Adams.
Thank you, Madam President. My question goes back to the state budget process. So, Mr. Dayhoff, from what I understand, right, you are one of many CFOs that sit on the commission Forgot the name, but I know it's the commission for student funding or school funding? School funding, thank you so much. The Commission on School Funding. And so just to, the rural communities, right? Because I believe that it's Clark and Washoe, but are there other individuals from the rural districts that sit on part of that conversation?
Trustee, thank you for the question. Again, Justin Dehoff for the record. Yes, there are two. We have Cassandra Stolke from Elko and Ray Ritchie from Nye County.
And especially Elko, did they support this proposed language?
So currently the Commission on School Funding is considering in its bill draft request also using removing the as practicable language, and so that was supported by the entire commission.
Okay, and then my other question is, like, how would I explain the state budget process to a parent, right? So if we base our state funding on the prior year October 1st enrollment instead of the current year quarterly fluctuation, how do I say it to a parent? That's not going to make sense.
Thank you for the question, Trustee. So currently, we already base our enrollments for weighted funds and at-risk students on the prior year. So this would bring into alignment the two different dates that we use, because we use October 1 of the current year for base, we use October 1 of the previous year for weighted at-risk funds. But I think the best way I would explain that is, imagine, if you will, we talk about in the spring cycle how our budget is a projection, and then in the fall, we reconcile that budget. Well, one of the challenges that happens when we reconcile that budget in the fall is unless we have an absolutely perfect and exact crystal ball into what our fall enrollment's going to be, and we have a demographics team who does an excellent job of getting that within a couple percentage points of precision, there's going to be disruption in the fall. We have to make changes to school level budgets in the fall because we are audited on those and we have to use that enrollment. So by using the previous year's enrollment rather than the current year enrollment, we're able to build our budgets and to know and to leave those budgets intact in the fall and then right-size those again next spring when it comes time to plan for the next fiscal year.
Okay, I can explain that. I'll have to write it down, but I can explain it. No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Esparza-Stoffergen.
I really appreciate the team. I don't know if I just see the work and the research behind all of the top priorities that were done. That's ours. I know I try to do some of that lift, and you can go down rabbit holes, right, with the language. So thank you for that. I do want to stay with this slide. So very curious, because of what you just said, how disruptive that first piece is. Oftentimes, because we do not have the actual numbers, it does disrupt in when we see surplusing or there's movement with some of our staff. I'm curious with the options. So when it says or a combination of both, what is the thinking on that first? And then I have a follow-up question.
Trustee, thank you for the question. Again, Justin Dehoff for the record. There are two applicable areas of NRS that apply here when it comes to the funding provision. So the reason for as both is you could just address the amount of the per pupil funding, which is what the latter point here is, removing as practicable. That sets the per pupil dollar amount that goes to schools. That would not alone address the disruption that occurs in the fall. And so the accommodating two would do both. It would allow us to increase the per pupil amount that goes out and would also allow us to plan it reliably without having to have a disruption each fall to school budgets.
That perfectly answered my question. The follow-up, though, is on the section 2. When we look at where it talks about a statutory minimum funding level, do we know what that would be or how it would be calculated?
Thank you for the question, Trustee. Again, Justin Dehoff for the record. Currently, the Commission on School Funding has considered what target per pupil funding would look like, and it has making recommendations in its report with regard to what would constitute target funding amount.
I'll put myself back in the queue. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Zamora.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for the presentation. So this question, I don't know really how to ask it, but as we started the first week of school, there was a lot of families, that kept sharing their stories of having to do pre-K, 2 years in a row because of a cutoff time. As we're talking about pre-K funding, it's two parts. Do we spend extra funds because these kids are doing 2 to 3 years in pre-K program? And the other part is that what we want because we're actually preparing them and they're, succeeding when they get to kinder? And I'm trying to figure out if that cutoff date can be part as we're talking about pre-K in the session. Does that make sense, Superintendent? Yes.
Superintendent Ebert, for the record, I think you're specifically talking about the August 1st cutoff date, right, which is in NRS, right? The legislature made that determination, not the Clark County School District. So we follow that. When that came into play, there were students that were born like August 5th that had already enrolled. And so, yes, there were some students, but we've already passed those 3 and 4 year olds. So now at this point, to what I just said, if they're doing 2 years of pre-K, they're doing it as a 3-year-old and as a 4-year-old before they go into K as a 5-year-old.
So we spend funds for them to be in this program. I guess I'm trying to fully understand. I feel like it is a good thing, and we should not touch that cutoff date, right? Because it is NRS, and we're talking about legislative session. Like, I feel like that is the goal. I just want to put it on the record and say it publicly. Like, it's good for kids to do it 2 years possibly because we're preparing them, but it is a cost to it at the same time. So kind of just putting that out there and really sharing it in that. Pre-K, yes. Yes?
So each child is an individual, but yes, research shows that having the 4-year-olds at a minimum participate in pre-K better prepares them for K. And then we've also identified, right, through Child Find and other methods, that there are other children that would also benefit starting at age 3.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Trustee Johnson on the line, and I believe he has a question. Trustee Johnson.
Thank you, Madam President. I really appreciate the way that we laid this out. It's incredibly logical, at least to me. One of the questions I had, and this might be for you, Mr. Dayhoff, how are we trying to, when we have the two options, and I know Trustee Esparza-Stafford just kind of asked this, but how would we get to a determination? So if we decide that funding for special education and the state budget process are what we want to go with, because that's what you all recommended, and those will be the biggest bangs for the buck, how will we determine which of the two options to select from there, or would you all select that, you all being staff?
Trustee Justin Dayhoff, again, Chief Financial Officer, again, for the record. With regard to the determining that target per pupil amount, the way that it's been spoken of in the commission is essentially benchmarking that to share the national average. So as I mentioned earlier, right now we're about $5,000 per pupil below the national average. So one way to get at a target minimum would be assigning that amount based on the current national average and making sure that we were funding it at least to a given proportion of that. With regard to deciding both or all of the above, I believe part of the conversation today would be considering what parameters we would want to include in the final bill draft request. But I'll also pass it over to Dr. Keating.
I'm just making sure I'm clear. So there really are two choice points. Choice point number one is which of these will we select? And then within that choice point, so once we've decided whether it's going to be funding with special ed or state budget process, we then have to determine which of the pathways we want to take within those two BDR selections. Is that correct?
Trustee
So
Johnson.
I guess I'm asking a question about the process.
Yep, Trustee Johnson, Brad Keating for the record. So you as a board tonight will choose the two options you want to move forward. So you have the ability to choose whichever two you want, right? But you can choose state budget process as well as the special ed bill, both of them to move forward. And then you will have the opportunity to make a decision here tonight on what you want to move forward. I personally would make a recommendation to you all that we move with both items that are in the buckets before you. I want to be clear and open and honest with you all. I think it's better, and I would lean on an expert former legislator who's sitting in front of me, but I would say it's a better opportunity to go with everything up in a bill and then negotiate with the legislature and make decision points as to where we need to go. I also want to be clear that a $480 million ask is a very large ask. I don't want that to be a surprise to anybody in the room, that we go to the legislature, and we don't even have the ability to guarantee a bill hearing on any of these. We will work extremely hard to get hearings and move these bills forward, but I want to be clear with you all that $480 million is a lot of money to ask for in a state budget that is not that large, truly. But by putting both options in there, it gives us a chance to truly have a conversation with the legislature and to work with our special education team here. And maybe they say they have $15 million available to start, and we look at where we can start plugging and what we can start doing for our students with disabilities. So by giving us as a team some flexibility, that provides us with additional wiggle room to really get something done. I don't want us to all walk away, as much as I'd love to tell you today that we're going to get the full entirety of both of these bills. The legislature and the legislative session is a sausage-making process, and we will work very hard to get something done that we're all happy with.
That's really helpful, Mr. Keating, just to be able to understand, one, it's 2 decisions, not 6 decisions. And then number 2, I agree, asking for $480 million is a lot of money, and we need a lot of money. So I think if we, we've proven, at least from the start of our work, that when investments are made in us, we leverage those investments and generate great returns. And so I think asking for the most amount of money possible, and then coming back and proving that with a good investment you'll get great returns is the best option, versus going and asking for a lower amount of money that, and then we still get less than what we'd asked for anyway. So thanks for making that clear. And I think the last part was just me opining, saying, let's always ask for as much as possible, even when that number is large, because it's not like we're going to go and waste it.
Thank you, Trustee Johnson. I see Trustee Barone next on the queue. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, team, Dr. Keating. This is probably, in all the years that I've been in an elected position, this is probably the very best, how should I say, analysis that I've seen for BDRs, and actually I think I come from a very strong team. And look, hey, I come from a background here where our city was very close to folding up, during the Great Recession, and our city was tied with, I think, one city in San Bernardino with the most foreclosures in the entire country per capita. I look at things very much from a triage point of view. I mean, the financial health of the district, I'm very happy to say we have some very good stewards of the public trust. When we look at how we move forward with all the challenges that we have going here, potentially, I think, just in my opinion, where we see the area for the most improvement, it's got to be in special education. And that is, again, is a 30-year educator in our public schools in 2 different districts, teaching from 5th and 6th grade through high school and adult, time and time again. It's where we see this. So I guess if we could actually make this like something for the public's mind's eye to envision what this would mean if we actually And again, that's almost $500 million is a huge ask, I get it. But even if we had a half fraction of that, right, which would be, what kind of things are we looking at that we could actually free up from our general obligations that would make this the thing to definitely, you know, us to go ahead and put the shoulder pads on, strap on the helmet as hard as you can, and drive this over the goal. Hey, I think the Raiders are playing tonight, so you have to excuse me for putting in that kind of term there.
Brad Keating for the record. They are playing, and our new chief of police is who's a big Raiders fan, is watching the score right now to tell us. Yeah, he does. I think, and I would lean on superintendent here. So what I think is that this sends a message that as a school district, we care 1,000% about our students with disabilities. This is near and dear to my heart as a special education teacher, because I've seen in classes where we haven't been able to provide every service to those kiddos. We've all seen that every day because money is tight everywhere. This provides us the opportunity to truly focus on our students, give them what they need to be successful, and it sends a message to this community that we, as a school district, welcome you as a student with disability, and we're going to do everything we can to support you. Superintendent, I don't know if you want to say anything else.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Keating, and I will weigh in. The team has been phenomenal in the research that they've done and to bring you the information tonight. What is really important on this one, yes, it is a lot of money, but it is money that school districts across the state are already expending. So it's not like a wish list. This is not a wish. These are actual services. We can name all these services to the provides directly to the legislature where all this funding is going, and it is marked. It's, you know, it's not a dream. It is services that are being provided today for our students with disabilities.
Madam President, a quick follow-up. And could we also characterize this as this is something where, of course, as public school districts, we have no peers with private institutions or even charter schools and being able to provide these services to the public. Is that not correct?
Brad Keating for the record.
I mean, we're federally mandated, right? Yes. But I know children who have applied to charter schools, but they're not able to get in. I'm just saying that, you know, that's not necessarily a big secret here, right? I'll go ahead and I'll say that, and I'll put my butt out on the line like that. This is something that it's a service, it's a duty that this district has that we can provide to this community that, of course, many of the, quote, competition is not in our league with.
Trustee Justin Dayhoff, Chief Financial Officer for the record. I'll harken back to my comment earlier that IEP is a mandate. It is a contract, right? And so to the superintendent's point as well, these are not just dollars that we don't know. These aren't a wish list. So by providing these extra funds in the form of special education funding, that's a direct relief on the general fund, and that's a direct relief back into the classroom for our teachers, for instruction, for kids, for families.
Okay, it looks like we're going to start round 2 in the queue, but I actually have a couple of questions. So, understanding that we need to make a decision tonight, I kind of want to go through this very quickly with you so I can have a better understanding on how I want to vote, because that's what we're doing tonight. So when I look at this, first of all, out of curiosity, with the special education funding, is it possible that when we lead with 480 million, that it doesn't get heard because it's such a big number? And if that is a possibility, is there a better way to pitch it? Like to talk more, maybe say instead of, and I'm just spitballing here because I don't know. I don't go to the legislature like you guys do. So you tell me, is it better to go in and say, we need X amount of educators, we need X amount of support staff, we need, and here are all the reasons why, and let them ask you how much it costs? I don't know if that's a better way to get heard. I get nervous about like the big number. Yes, we need it, but I really, really am hopeful, as are you, that this, if we were to vote this one in as a priority, that it would go the distance. So just wondering I guess I'm wondering what the strategy would be for this particular BDR.
Nick Ciccone for the record. Just to answer your question, I think it's important to note that the language that you'll actually see in the bill, and I will look at Chief Finance Officer Dayhoff to correct me if I'm wrong, but the language that we would actually include in the bill and with the Legislative Counsel Bureau would not ever include the $480 million number. We're not asking for an appropriation. We would be asking to address and fix the pupil-centered funding plan to include special education funding for the purposes of fully funding individualized education plans. So. It might be known that there's a $480 million cost, but I don't think that would ever be inside the bill.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. And then in terms of, I want to hear from you guys in terms of impact and pain points, the bigger pain points that are on the district, and maybe our superintendent can lean into this as well. But when I look at, when we look at the BDR for the state budget, and we talk about the pain points of quarterly fluctuations, disruptive mid-year staffing and program cuts because of how that is currently situated in making that change, you know, that seems like a pretty big pain point. But, you know, the transportation that we have on here for the open enrollment, that also sounds like a pretty good pain point. There's other things like pre-K that we know there's other folks that are thinking of taking that up. So maybe that wouldn't be a priority that we have to lead. But like local control, nobody else is going to lead that but us. So so when I'm looking at these and I'm thinking about where we want to focus, I'm trying to determine what are the district's biggest pain points, what are the biggest solutions, and how can we attack them fully? This is our opportunity to do that. So I'm trying to understand, at least from your perspective, what that looks like.
Nick Ciccone for the record. I'll look to someone else to answer your questions about the pain points, but I did want to be clear about the 6 ideas and what kind of sponsors that we have identified. So when it comes to special education funding, we haven't necessarily heard that there's a sponsor for that bill. When it comes to pre-K, we have heard that someone wants to change the 0.6 to 1.0, and we're talking about the cost for pre-K. When we're looking at retaining the local control of facilities, I would argue that we have at least 16 other school districts in the state that would lead that effort with us as we're looking at local control.
Okay.
But it doesn't require a bill, it would just require us to be on the defense if someone were to bring forward a bill. When it comes to transportation funding, we're hoping that ends up in the governor's recommended budget, but we can't guarantee that. We'll just work with them collaboratively. The state budget process updates, we've heard some excitement around that. And from my understanding, the Commission on School Funding could not actually change the count dates, so that is why we think it would be a great bill to run. And I think we could probably get there with all of the other school districts, but I can't say that we're 100%. They're 100% supportive. They haven't seen the bill language. And then when it comes to standards-based grading, we did actually hear from someone as we were discussing a pilot program or research for the Department of Education to take on. They were quite excited about that and were willing to potentially sponsor that bill.
Do you need a bill to have them research something on education? Like, shouldn't they already be doing that? I'm genuinely wondering.
Superintendent Ebert, having sat in that chair, it depends, quite honestly, on whether the State Board of Education wants to take it on, then we can put it in NAC. But if the legislature, any legislators or the governor wants to take it on, then in NRS. So that's the 2 ways that it can happen.
Okay. Thank you. I will, I'll be done. Let me go, Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. And I was listening very intently on the grading and also the special education because I think it's such an important thing to the community. And I've sat with so many parents. To come from my kids don't have the IEP, and so I've had to hear so many parents just describing how they advocate, and so it's been a huge learning curve for me, and I think it's just something near to our hearts here. So I want to understand for the special education, the per pupil centered funding. I'm trying to understand, does that mean that it's going to go directly to the schools? Will there be parameters on how it's utilized? I want to understand how, if we were to submit a BDR like this, how would it be focused? Whoever wants to take it.
I'm going to hand it over to Chief Financial Officer Dayhoff in just a second, but I do want to say that in general, and when we were looking at what Washoe County School District had also directed their lobbyists to advocate on behalf and include in their bill draft requests, they had given general guidance, and then we can work out some of the more nitty-gritty details. But with both of those, I would say that is making a statewide impact, and then the pupil-centered funding plan would then determine where that money is being allocated.
Justin Dayhoff again for the record. Thank you for that question, trustee. So currently the special education resources come to districts in the state through the auxiliary component of the pupil-centered funding plan. So what this would likely look like would be establishing a weight, just like we have a weight for at-risk, gifted and talented English language learner students. And then that would flow to the district and then to the schools that enroll those students who are eligible for that weight.
Got it. Thank you. And my second question is for you, Madam President. So are we going to be taking each of these one by one and then going through and saying, okay, we've selected our top two? Are we going through and saying we want, two options or the one, or how are we running this?
Yep, so after discussion, we'll have public comment. After public comment, I will open it up for motions. At that point, we will do it one motion at a time. So somebody might motion to approve, you pick one of the six, right? So you pick one. I want this one to be an approved BDR for CCSD, for the board for BDR. And then we vote on it. And then if it goes through, great. If it doesn't, okay. And then the next person can make a motion. And so you can motion on whichever one you want. I'm fine with that because it's the will of the board. But at the end of the day, like I would really like it if we just did one at a time. Don't come with, well, I want these two to go for it. That can get very convoluted. So I think we need to make our motions until we have two that we've agreed on as a board.
Thank you. And then we'll go dive deeper once we've selected the two.
Well, they gotta submit them. What do you mean dive deeper?
So once let's say we pick transportation or grading, once we've selected that, we have two options to select from. Some of them even have three options. So what I'm trying to understand is, are we going to be motioning for that BDR plus the combination of options, or shall we just do it as a whole and then dissect it further? Does that make sense?
So, yes, it does make sense. I see what you're saying. I was under the impression, so you guys correct me if I'm wrong, I was under the impression that what we see, the options, I thought both were just going to be in the BDR. But if I'm wrong.
Nick Ciccone for the record, that would be our recommendation, to include both options. If you were to choose like funding for special education, we would recommend that you include both options, and then we will work through the details.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank
awesome. You. Trustee Esparza-Stafford.
So, excuse me, that was my question about, Madam President, is what was going to be the process. Some of us cannot vote, although we can make motions. So I hear what you're saying. I want to clarify, are you saying we would take them in the order that they are presented in numerical, potentially, or anyone could make a motion on any type of potential BDR?
I don't think it needs to go in numerical. If you want to make a motion, you can make a motion.
Thank you for that. So I know we're waiting for public comment. What I don't want to miss is an opportunity to express, because I cannot vote, my preferences. So I would like to kind of just think out loud based on the conversation, the discussion by my colleagues, and from the team as well. I appreciated that we do have, for number 2, the pre-K has a sponsor. So that is something that is in existence. The local control seems like we can definitely have conversation and would have abilities to maintain that. It would not be something that would require BDR. The open enrollment is already in existence. We will see the ROI on that after this year is done. So I think that could be potentially something that would continue for funding. And then the last one for grading reform, NDE, again, it was noted that they can do their own research, and it may not be something that we're going to have to take on ourselves as a district. So my preference would be, without hearing public comment at this time, the greatest return and the amount of impact fiscally and also for student achievement would be special ed funding and then the state budget per pupil funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Zamora.
Thank you, Madam President. I was honestly ready to make a motion. I will share special education is very personal to me, and I always appreciate, Trustee Dominguez too, because she really has, gone in on special education and really hearing the stories of, I will say us as parents who have to go through this, and we know there's not enough money to be able to support the services, and I do get emotional because it's very personal, and I know that I feel like my child does not have it as hard as other children do and other families do. So I know something like funding special ed would be, it's a big dream, but I hope we can rally our community to really come out and support during session, because we need these people to hear the stories of what we deal with on a day-to-day basis. So whenever, I guess after public comment, I would love to make the first motion.
Thank you. Trustee Bustamante Adams.
I'm in that same boat. I'm ready. After public comment.
All right. Seeing as there is no more discussion, Trustee Johnson, I'm sorry, did you have anything else?
Nope. Trustee Ramon, as far as the Sharpigan said exactly what I was going to say, but so much better.
Okay. Thank you. So before we entertain a motion, I have one person signed up for public comment, Ms. Binder.
Monster, so. And I have ADHD. So. Anyways, Anna Binder for the record, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert. I did have a 3-minute thing put together, but after listening to you guys, and I've been following your legislative priorities very closely. I love what I'm hearing. I also have been following the Commission on School Funding. And so I guess I would just more urge that if you move in the direction of the SPED funding, that your work complements their work. I actually had a conversation with NSCA after their last meeting, because they have a portion that they're going to talk about in their meeting in about 2 weeks that really focuses on this work too. And I'm really nervous at that, because their BDR is so brilliant. Thanks, Justin. That some of it might get lost in translation as we get through the legislative process. So I had discussed with NSCA potentially pulling that out themselves and submitting it to the committee, so it doesn't get lost in translation. But if you guys could really help complement that work on that funding, that would be absolutely amazing. And I know we don't have control over anything, but as a parent and advocate and all of the other hats that I fill across the state, I do nothing more than try to get those families out to advocate for those things. And as you guys know, it's few and far between, and sometimes I'm the only one in the room. So I don't mind that, but I just really want us to try, to not duplicate the work, complement the work. We have a brilliant team. I think we can do that, and I really love that. And thank you guys for supporting that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. There's nobody else signed up for public comment, so with that, I will entertain a motion. Trustee Zamora.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to make a motion to request funding for special education with a combination of 1 and 2 as, do I need to read that whole thing? 1 and 2 as our first BDR.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Trustee Barone.
A succinct second.
Okay, let's vote. Motion passes. We have one approved BDR. I will entertain a second motion once I can see the queue. Trustee Bustamante Adams.
Thank you, Madam President. If you can put the one on the state budget process so I could read it. I motion to put our second BDR as the state budget process with the two options and allowing the team to work through the best process for us.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm excited to second that motion.
Awesome. Let's vote. Motion passes. We have our two BDRs. Thank you, team. And with that, I will close 3.06 and open 3.07. This is not an action item. So we will present, or the district will present, and we will discuss. So I'll turn it over to you.
There we go. Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, Anna Colquitt for the record. Tonight, I am honored to present a 90-day update on the implementation of the strategic plan. We listened carefully to our students, families, community, and partners, translating their feedback into a clear, unified direction. This plan represents our 5-year commitment to transforming our schools into safe, supportive places where learning sparks joy and students are ready to build their future. Our plan is anchored in 3 priorities. Priority 1 is the heart of our mission, academic excellence. Our destination here is a district where students achieve academically so that they can succeed today and adapt for tomorrow. Our second priority centers on career-connected learning and durable skills for life. Our destination is a district where students graduate with durable skills, a clear path forward, and the credentials needed to enter their chosen field. And finally, our third priority is the foundation for all learning. Our destination is a district where students learn in safe, supportive schools where they are known, valued, connected, and ready to thrive. At the heart of our mission is the belief that education should be joyful, transforming our schools into places where every student, employee, and family member feels eager to walk through the doors. The initial 90 days of implementation focused on transitioning the strategic plan from theory into operational execution across 3 primary areas. First, system and resource alignment. We aligned central office workflows, administrative kickoff directives, and departmental goals directly into the 3 priorities to ensure operational consistency district-wide. Second, stakeholder coalition. We took this plan on the road, engaging over 100 community organizations, business leaders, and school groups to build broad-based ownership and external support for the goals we outlined in the plan. And finally, accountability frameworks. We laid the infrastructure for real accountability to ensure every goal we are prioritizing in year 1, which is what I'm sharing with you today, has a method for being trackable from day 1. To reach our destination academic excellence, we are focusing on the 6 core goals that we set forth in the strategic plan, and I will outline what our first-year initiatives are for each. First, with academic excellence. In year 1, our immediate execution focuses on 3 major levers. This fall, we communicated and will implement our CCSD instructional commitments that were created by more than 300 principals in June of this year. Those commitments include designing safe and rigorous Tier 1 spaces where educators intentionally plan data-driven instruction and students carry the cognitive lift through academic discourse, productive struggle, and self-monitoring their path to standard mastery. At the highest level, the Tier 1 commitments are empowering student ownership through discourse and actionable reflection, rigorous planning for clarity and access, and cultivating a safe and supportive environment for growth. As we implement Tier 1 instructional materials with fidelity and place emphasis on students owning their learning, we need a way to visualize what this looks like at the classroom level. Therefore, we will be developing student-centered observation tools so that when building leaders enter into classrooms, they know exactly what owning their learning looks like at the classroom level. To ensure the student-centered observation tool is utilized to its fullest potential in providing targeted feedback and support, we will implement ongoing professional learning in this area. Next, priority 2, our goal is to make high school graduation a launch pad rather than a finish line. And so these are our 5 strategic areas, and then I will outline the year 1 initiatives for priority 2. So here our focus is on establishing career-connected opportunities and clear post-secondary pathways across all grade levels. First, career-connected events. We are operationalizing early career engagement by requiring all elementary and middle schools to host at least 2 career-connected events per grade level annually, and this is directly outlined in the strategic plan. And these events will be supported by our forthcoming career-connected learning toolkit. Second, academic planning. To support long-term planning, all middle and high schools are creating individualized, high-quality academic plans that engage families in the process. Finally, a durable skills framework. We are co-developing a durable skills competency framework mapped directly to state standards and the Portrait of a Nevada Learner. The goal here is to identify where these durable skills are things such as communication, collaboration, problem solving, already exist in the Nevada academic content standards, develop ways to fill the gaps that do exist so durable skills are fully embedded into all content areas, and then develop what those model lessons look like and the assessment protocol looks like to ensure that this skill development is taking place and showcase that skill development. For priority 3, safe and supportive schools, these are our goals for safe and supportive schools, and then I will get into our year 1 initiatives for priority 3. So here are year 1 execution targets, climate, connection, and streamlined communication across all of our school communities. So first, connected students. Research shows that student engagement correlates directly with school connection. So every school this year is required to design and execute an intentional plan to increase the percentage of students who report feeling known, valued, and supported by adults in their building. Next, streamlined communication systems. We are updating our communication infrastructure. This includes launching a new parent data dashboard, standardized district and school websites, and aligned outreach tools to improve transparency, streamline information for families, and tell our district story more effectively. Finally, baseline measurements for extracurricular engagement. So to evaluate access and participation, we are establishing a baseline tracking system, and this will measure student involvement in connection building activities, including things like athletics, clubs, and fine arts. To maintain accountability as we laid out in the strategic plan, we have established a routine reporting schedule. This cadence ensures that the board and public receive regular data-driven updates on our milestones throughout the year and the collective efforts driving successful implementation of the strategic plan. We'd like to acknowledge that there are so many organizations that have actively collaborated on our strategic plan priorities, and this warmed our hearts because as we were shaping the strategic plan, we heard loud and clear that our community was ready to embrace this and dive in, and so seeing that that has happened so quickly after the launch of our plan was incredibly exciting. And to address key implementation gaps in student engagement and early intervention and student well-being, the district is seeking to strengthen strategic partnerships with community organizations and industry leaders. So expanding collaboration with career and technical education partners will provide students with greater access to work-based learning, industry certifications, and apprenticeship opportunities. Partnerships with youth mentorship organizations will enhance Tier 2 supports for students experiencing chronic absenteeism and other risk factors by connecting them with caring adults and positive peer networks. And the district also will deepen partnerships with early childhood and family literacy organizations to improve school readiness through expanded pre-K enrollment and early literacy initiatives. In addition, collaboration with restorative practices and juvenile diversion partners will strengthen schools' capacity to implement restorative approaches, reduce disciplinary disproportionality, and provide effective alternatives to exclusionary discipline, ensuring students remain engaged in their learning. So again, this is our 5-year commitment to transforming schools into safe, supportive places where learning sparks joy and students are ready to build a home, a life, and a future. This is our destination. Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, thank you for your leadership and continued support of this work, and I will now welcome any comments or questions.
Thank you so much. Open it up for discussion. Colleagues, does anybody have anything? Trustee Esparza-Stoffergen.
Thank you, Dr. Colquitt, for this follow-up, because we did ask for that, and I appreciate the timeline of the kind of the reporting that will happen. Question on page 9 of 14. And it speaks not just specifically to this priority, but to the entire plan. There is mention of establish a baseline for the students who are involved. And then, so I guess my larger broad question is, typically we would get into like, what are the metrics? What are the measures? And then what are the outcomes? Is that coming later for all of the priorities? And are we gonna have any preview to what those metrics and measures and targets might be?
Thank you for your question, Trustee Esparza-Stoffergen. Specifically for this, for the baseline, we need to establish a baseline before we can know what an increased engagement would look like. And so we are utilizing a tracking capability within the Infinite Campus system to be able to look at what this baseline number looks like for engagement. But beyond that, the strategic plan in general, we have our reporting cadence here of when you will get updates, and we are specifically targeting our reports around the KPIs in the plan. So you will get an update of this was the KPI we mapped out in the plan, so this was our success indicator. These are the initiatives that we're introducing based on the strategies that we set forth in the plan, and this is where we are at on our progress of meeting that success indicator.
So I hear yes, that we will see what the baseline will be, and then the metrics, and then the outcomes. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Trustee Bustamante-Adams.
Thank you, Madam President. 2 things. I'm really excited about the partnerships and the evolution from the community engagement team has just been transformational, and so I appreciate that. Especially in the mentorship and family and the literacy portion. I know that today I got to address some individuals that are mentors and volunteers through Spread the Word, and they're going to be reading to the students at Dondero Elementary School, and that they're all volunteers. So I'm super excited because that definitely increases our literacy rate. My question was similar to Trustee Esparza-Stroffigan because, and it's not for you, Doctor, it is for our board president, because when I first started, the strategic priorities were already set, and then we would get reports, and then we stopped that because we didn't have a revised strategic plan that the board had approved and moved forward. So my question is, I thought that the process worked where we told the superintendent what we wanted to see from the strategic plan, and we agreed on the KPIs so that we would see as a team the dashboard on a quarterly basis. But I may be wrong because this process, I've never actually have gone through it when I first started. So I don't know if anybody, I'm looking to my former vice president, if she remembers that the strategic plan, did the board pick which metrics that they wanted to see and determine the KPIs for the dashboards that we wanted and not the other way around? We did.
Well, so I would like to add, one of the things that we have not met on yet and voted on is our handbook. The handbook is going to have, it's going to specifically outline that process for us because the strategic plan is basically what we measure the superintendent's evaluation. It's pretty much based upon that and the measurables within. So I believe that our consultant, Dr. Alsbury, as he finishes up this handbook, will be providing us with that process, so it will likely look a little different. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that right now, the district is trying to show that, hey, I know you don't have this done yet, but here's all the things that we're currently working on, and we'll continue to update you until we have that process in place. Does that sound?
Superintendent Ebert, for the record, yes, that is correct. And yes, it will not be based on the handbook that you adopt and your governance policies that you've already adopted. And if you just go into my current evaluation, right, we'll be bringing forth, now that we have a strategic plan, right? When we started, we didn't have a strategic plan. Now that we have one, we'll bring forward you the identified 10 to 12 items for you to make a determination on the 5, 4 to 6, as Dr. Alsbury has recommended, items that you will have us track specifically for everyone's conception and evaluation of myself and the team. But that doesn't mean we won't be working beyond those 6, and so we still will be reporting out to you on the strategic plan as well. So there's the component of evaluation, monitoring of the superintendent, and then there's the component of how the strategic plan, our North Star, is moving forward.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you. I think we're doing a phenomenal job as a group, so thank you for the awesome work.
Thank you. Trustee Barone.
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Colquitt, thank you very much for this update. You know, I had to admit, I almost missed getting ready for the start of the school year. I feel like a little bit above a buzz that I've not felt, you know, in our district for a while. I've actually had, you know, quite a few people reach out to me regarding, for instance, pre-K. And there were a few people who I think they thought that we had nothing to offer them because they suspect their children might be, you know, autistic or something. And I said, hey, look, we have a program, and, you know, we've had staff reach out to them, so I want to thank you on that one. And a matter of fact, you know, of course, I like, and I've made no secret of this, you know. My own son, who's a 3-year-old, he's participating, of course, in the district's program here in pre-K because, of course, he's deaf. Matter of fact, there's a person in the room here who actually works at his school, and a little shout out to her, right? But not right now, I guess. But I guess again, with the cool buzz that we're feeling in all this, right? It's still pretty early in the school year to actually ask. So kind of like as I would for my own students, I would ask that maybe the next time we have a presentation on how our destination district goals and all this are going out, maybe we can get like a top 3 successes and maybe an update on some places where maybe things maybe are not going quite as, fluid as we want, and maybe where, might need a little bit more support, something like that. Again, that's kind of something that I would give to my students, right? And it's one of those kind of reflective things that's always kind of hard for us to do. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Did you go yet? No. Okay. Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. So I had a couple of questions on, there's a few, we'll start on page 5. There's it's like all tied together. So there's this, student-centered observation tool. And then there's another tool that is used, might be the next one, page 9, measuring activities and engagement. So this kind of data that's collected on our students, like how is that? Is it just teachers are able to tap into that? Is it are parents able to see when their student is, not at the level they're supposed to be? How are we tracking that data? How are we giving that data to our parents, to our educators? We called in a friend, so thank you.
Phone a friend. Thank you for the question, Trustee Dominguez. So specifically when we talk about the classroom observation tool, it really aligns to obviously the strategic plan as well as some of the work that came out of the efficiency study. One of the things that we saw in particular is that we need to make sure that we're really engaging with our students, that they're engaging in discourse, that we're really giving them the opportunity to have that cognitive lift in terms of the instruction. And so we have a number of look-for tools that we have utilized and have been in place, but we really need to update that to focus on those student elements. So that's going to be the really focus of the work. It's not something that is really at a parent level in terms of data. It's to help us with our practice to make sure that as our teachers are planning and working with those students, that we're seeing those elements occurring in lessons. And then when we think about the engagement piece under priority 3, there is that component, particularly at the secondary level, that we are building into Infinite Campus this year, where we're going to be able to track some of those clubs, activities, and sports to help give us a measure on that engagement. But we're also working with all of our principals on other methods to be able to track that. And so actually one of the first things that we have out of the gate as we work with principals in our October collaboratives is for them to have some time to be able to work together across different schools, share some of those ideas in terms of how they're going to track that, because we need to build some common language and expectations around how we're going to identify that additional number that Dr. Colquitt was referring to earlier, and then how we're going to track that moving forward.
And if I could just add one thing to that, though, from the family engagement standpoint, the goal of streamlining communication is doing just that. It's taking student data, ensuring that it's accessible to families and that they understand what scores mean, what numbers mean when they're receiving them home, so that they can do something meaningful with that information. So that is, even though that's not the one you were mentioning, it is one in priority 3.
I think you felt it was on my mind, though, because that was going to be where I was going next. But I give kudos to that. I really appreciate streamlining that. And I know even as a parent, there's just a lot to go through. And I do want to say I am very supportive of the cadence of these reporting periods, especially as they go along with our superintendent evaluation. So I appreciate having these come back to the board monthly, because these are things that our parents are asking. They want to know where we're at. So I really appreciate that. I will say on page 11, I'm sorry, this is my last question. I did notice, if I could suggest, Creech Air Force Base was not added to this list. And I was stationed at Creech Air Force Base, as everybody knows here. It was my last duty station. And so there are a lot of families that in my area that live in, that are stationed at Creech. So I don't know if we could add them to that list. And then the other portion I was going to ask about was the town advisory boards for our small cities that don't have mayors and they don't have a Chamber of Commerce, is like Indian Springs and Mount Charleston. So I don't know if they could be added to this list to receive updates on this.
Trustee Dominguez, if I could just clarify, these are not the only people receiving updates on the strategic plan. So these were either events that the superintendent was invited to speak at, or where we were welcomed so that they could showcase how they had taken the strategic plan and what they were planning to do organizationally to reflect what we are headed towards for our strategic plan. So this is not an exhaustive list, and something that we are prioritizing as the strategic plan prioritizes our partnerships and our community partnerships. We are including community partnerships that relate to everything that we are reporting to you on. So all of our board reports will include this aspect of community partners that we're working with to improve whatever area we're reporting on. So this was a first effort at that, but yes, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. A follow-up, if possible. Are we getting a cadence? Are they on the same cadence as us? I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. I was just wondering if they are getting if they're on the same cadence as we are for reporting. You're going to be sending them information. Are they going to be on the same cadence?
Yeah, so the municipality, any information we're sharing with municipalities, we always want to make sure you guys get that information first. So generally speaking, yes, whatever information that we share with the board, we then also make sure that we're sharing that information with our municipalities and getting their feedback and interaction on that as well.
Got it. Thank you.
Trustee Zamora.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for the presentation. Colleagues, I just like to give history and context. So for you all to remember that meeting, which I actually remember, was, if you want to go back to look at the notes, was November 7th for our board retreat, where we discussed the targets and we all narrowed it down. So that way you don't have to go and try searching for it. I was trying to be helpful to my colleagues. So that was November 7th, and we were able to narrow down. What I do always like to want to say is I appreciate that in our agendas, we have also tied all these priorities to each agenda item. So we're also following along through our meetings, how we're also connecting the dots for this. So thank you, and I'm excited for all of this.
Thank you. Trustee Satori.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I really appreciate how well laid out it is and how much thought has gone into it. I had a question on the durable skills framework. Could you elaborate a little bit about who will be involved in the co-development of that? And also, is it intended for all grade levels, across all grade levels, or is that more of a high school focus?
Yes, thank you for your question, Trustee Satori. Anna Colquitt for the record. So we just released an RFP to partner with someone on this work. This is coming from the Superintendent's Innovation Fund of our community that came together and said, we are excited about the direction of the strategic plan and of the district, and we want to support those innovative initiatives that we laid out in the strategic plan. And so this is one of the major projects with that fund. And we are, when we say co-develop this, we truly mean it. So it's the way we have it laid out right now is a 4-phase approach. The first one is using the Portrait of a Nevada Learner to all be on the same page with what durable skills do we want to capture across what grade bands, how are we defining these durable skills or operationalizing them within the educational context, and then looking at, from there, looking at what those might look like across grade bands, so whether they're progressions or different skills across grade bands, looking at what assessment, what model lessons already exist, where these durable skills already show up in the Nevada academic content standards, where the gaps exist so that we can then fill those gaps with the durable skills, and then develop the assessment protocols to ensure that we have a way of showcasing the skills that have been developed.
Thank you. Trustee Johnson.
Thanks so much. I just wanted to, I don't have a question, I have a comment. So thanks for letting me spend a couple seconds here. It was great to be able to hear the presentation and how you all laid it out. it was even more fantastic. I'm giving some feedback from community members that I heard recently. I was at the city council doing briefings there, and they were all really thrilled at just the clarity of the plan, and then also our willingness to be accountable to the results and to be so transparent about how we're going to hold ourselves accountable. So I just wanted to give the team such kudos for reaching out across so many community lines to make sure that people were invested or are invested in the plan, understand what the plan is, and are willing to roll up their sleeves and help resolve. It makes it so much better when everyone feels accountable to one direction and one vision. So kudos to you all for all the work you've done to make sure that we are seen as a collective and not a disparate group of people.
Thank you, Trustee Johnson. Seeing no one else in the queue, I think that ends our discussion. Thank you, team. Appreciate that. It was a great presentation. And that will close out 3.07. With that, I will open 3.08, also not an action item, the Clark County Scholarship Program.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert. I'm Justin Dayhoff, Chief Financial Officer for the record. And here today, I'm actually going to pass it over to my right to kick us off as we start this conversation around the Clark County Scholarship Program.
Good evening, President Stevens, members of the board, and Superintendent Ebert. My name is Jeff Wells. I am co-president of the Public Education Foundation. We are a 501c3 designated Nevada nonprofit corporation. Our mission is to align with the Clark County School District to help them meet their immediate critical needs and support public school students across Clark County.
Trustees, today we are talking to you about an opportunity in front of us, an opportunity that we share with the Public Education Foundation to align around a simple but high leverage idea, the Clark County Scholarship Program. We bring this forward as a proposed collaboration between CCSD and the Public Education Foundation with a strategy to turn new federal tax credit scholarship donations to expand student opportunity here in Clark County. In this case, PEF would serve as the scholarship granting organization, or SGO, which you'll hear me refer to throughout the presentation. CCSD would package and deliver eligible enhanced services for students, with the purpose being straightforward. Keep private, charitable, taxpayer dollars local here in Nevada, expand academic and career-connected supports, and do so in a way that carries out the vision of the Destination District Strategic Plan without asking families or local taxpayers for more. This federal tax credit is not just a private school issue. It's a new education revenue channel for K-12, including public school districts. It allows individual taxpayers to contribute to approved scholarship granting organizations, or SGOs, and receive a federal income tax credit up to a statutory limit. Those scholarship organizations then pay qualified education expenses for eligible students. That includes expenses connected to public schools, like us. The opportunity here is new philanthropic revenue for tutoring, extended learning, enrichment, technology, career-connected learning, and other student supports. It's important that we move quickly. In fact, we may be building the Volkswagen while we drive it. But if districts do not build credible public school pathways, dollars, and family relationships, a narrative will soon move around us. So let me start with the basic flow, what we're talking about here. Under this new federal program, a taxpayer may make a cash contribution to a qualified scholarship granting organization. That SGO must be on an applicable state list and meet federal requirements. The taxpayer then claims a federal credit subject to the statutory cap in the taxpayer's own situation. The SGO awards scholarships to the district to administer. Those scholarship funds can then pay qualified education expenses to that provider, in this case, the district, who then offers those qualifying services. In practical terms, this is a donor to SGO to provider model. And for a district, the key for us is to decide what we want to be in that chain, a passive observer, an organized provider, or, I should say, an organized provider with an affiliated scholarship granting organization strategy. So let's look at the tax mechanics. Getting really fun here. A tax deduction and a tax credit are not the same thing. A deduction lowers the amount of income that gets taxed, but a credit lowers the tax bill itself, which makes this program particularly powerful. So if a taxpayer makes a qualifying $1,700 contribution to an approved scholarship granting organization, the potential federal benefit is not that $1,700 is taken off the taxable income. Instead, subject to the taxpayer situation and the final rules of this program, the potential tax benefit is that up to $1,700 can be taken directly off of federal income taxes owed. Here's a simple example. If a taxpayer owes $2,000 in federal income tax and makes a qualifying $1,700 contribution, the credit can reduce the federal tax bill to $300. It's a dollar for dollar up to the cap, meaning that donation is automatically taken out before taxes through payroll. The message is simple. Support students, keep dollars local here in Nevada, and talk with your tax advisor. One more time for a disclaimer, we're not giving individual tax advice. Nevada is already on the starting line. As of the IRS July 2026 participating state list for 2027, Nevada has made an advance election to participate in this program. That matters, but it's not the finish line. In fact, it's really just the starting line. A state must identify eligible scholarship granting organizations for the applicable year. For us, the practical work is to make sure the public school aligned scholarship granting organization is ready to be named, approved, and operational. Hence the importance of our collaboration with the Public Education Foundation. The state mechanics and federal guidance are still being developed. I mentioned before that we're building this airplane while we fly it. That's in part because the federal government is building the same airplane while they fly it. We're waiting for upcoming tax guidance here in the weeks ahead. But the message is clear. If Nevada is participating, then Nevada public schools need a public school implementation strategy. We're here today because we cannot wait until January to decide whether to build one. The Clark County Scholarship Program is a scholarship engine for public school opportunity. Individual taxpayers can contribute to the approved SGO and receive a federal tax credit subject to final guidance. In our model, PEF is that SGO. PEF would receive donations, own the accounts, issue donor receipts, verify eligibility, and award those scholarships. CCSD then becomes the public school provider. Under federal law, school districts are not allowed to be the scholarship granting organization, hence the importance of having and identifying a scholarship granting organization partner who is a registered 501c3. Students then participate through a district-defined bundle of services. The goal here being not to create a complicated new program for families, but to instead create a clean path from taxpayer support to student access. For students and families in CCSD, the value proposition for this program is access. Scholarship funds can help students receive more for academic support, more enrichment, more technology-enabled learning, more for students with special needs, and more career-connected experiences. This can include, as I note, tutoring, extended learning, certifications, activities, devices, transportation-related supports, and other enhanced services allowed under the final rules which we expect to be issued in the coming weeks here in mid-September. We also want the family experience to be simple. Fortunately, based on the size and income composition of CCSD, our working assumption is that we will have broad eligibility, meaning a broad swath of not all of our students will be eligible. For that reason, we will pursue the least burdensome eligibility method allowed so that families are not asked to navigate any unnecessary paperwork. Our operating model for this program would be straightforward. A PEF would be the SGO and fund holder. That means PEF, as I noted, owns the accounts, receipts, donations, and awards of scholarship and retains the allowable administrative amount up to the legal limit, which is 10%, to pay the vendor, staffing, marketing, compliance, and operating costs. That 10% being a pretty standard number when we think about federal indirect cost rates for programs. Even the indirect cost rate de minimis here in Nevada is 15%. So the 10% is actually even less than that. We would then define and set the annual flat rate with the Public Education Foundation. We would support registration and implementing and deliver the student services. We would likely leverage a third-party vendor as in used in other states, for example, those that implement education savings accounts, which this is not. This is not an education savings account program. It's different. It's a tax credit program. But we would do so to help power the infrastructure, right, to power that donation portal, the eligibility workflow, any sort of digital wallets, payment processing, and audit-friendly reporting. So today, we bring this to you to raise early awareness as we start the work needed for launch readiness. If we start to move now, we can be ready for January 2027 and beyond. The result here is a scalable opportunity engine to expand our pie of district revenue that allows community members, employers, employees, alumni, vendors, and families to invest directly in Clark County students. We don't want to leave a moment behind, and that's why we bring this to you today for early information. Our students and families deserve that urgency. We are ready to meet the moment and continue to move CCSD forward toward the destination district. With that, trustees, we stand for any further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Dayhoff. I'll open it up for discussion. Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to ask my questions early so I can try to go back in the queue for any more. So one, I know you don't need our approval for this, but I am super excited to see the One Big Beautiful Bill signed by President Trump, and so I'm really excited that this is coming forward. And thank you for the quick lesson. I know it wasn't tax advice, but I appreciate the lesson on tax deductible versus tax credit. One of the questions that I'll start with is, I'll start with the question that's more privy to my position as clerk. So as a clerk, I have the privilege of signing all of the thank you notes for the donors, for our people that donate to the school. How will a donor know, or how will it happen where how are we going to direct them is what I'm trying to understand.
Trustee, thank you for the question. Justin Dayhoff, Chief Financial Officer for the record. A lot of this will have to be the mechanics that we work out over the coming months ahead. In general, though, that's where the marketing and all the front-end work is going to have to be. We are going to have to do the work to work with our biggest employers, helping them prepare, notify their employees that, hey, guess what? Do you owe federal income taxes? Well, you don't have to send all that money to Washington, D.C. You can send it right here in Southern Nevada to the school district. Right, so marketing will be a key component of this and something that we'll have to work closely with our partners to do so heading into the implementation of the program in the spring.
Thank you. And so for my second question, so for donors that send money directly to a school, that will be different. That will not be, oh, I'm getting a nod.
Trustee, thank you for the question. That's right, and that'll be one of the differences between a regular tax donation versus this tax credit program. So folks can still continue to provide charitable donations direct to schools. There is no change whatsoever to that. What is different is now under the Big Beautiful Bill and the Education Freedom Scholarship Program, there is now a credit available that would go to the scholarship granting organization that would then be doled out across the district.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Biasotti?
Thank you, Madam President. And I think we owe a big thank you to our president for making this possible. I do have a question. Are there any other SGOs that our district is collaborating with other than PEF?
Trustee, thank you for the question. So right now, technically speaking, there are no scholarship granting organizations in the state because the list from the governor's office hasn't been created yet. That's going to need to be defined once the final IRS and Treasury guidelines come out in the coming weeks, at which point entities will then work with the governor's office, I would imagine, to get onto that list. So right now, we know we have had a long history of partnership with the Public Education Foundation, especially as it relates to financial matters. And so in order to try and get ahead and be ready for this, we're trying to be proactive in identifying an organization that we anticipate will meet the requirements of those scholarship granting organizations.
Thank you for that, and I appreciate that action of being proactive and trying to get ahead of that. And my follow-up question was, does PEF award anyone, any other district other than CCSD?
Trustee, thank you for the question. Again, Justin Dayhoff for the record. I won't speak on PEF's behalf because they operate many different scholarship programs. The one that we're talking about today for this would be to the Clark County School District.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you. Trustee Bustamante Adams.
Thank you, Madam President. I believe you answered some of my questions, and so I just want to, would it be the IRS, that would be the federal entity that would provide the guidance that is needed, right?
Yes, trustee, the IRS and the Treasury Department. That's
And the
correct.
Treasury Department, okay. And then you mentioned communication and marketing. That would be worked out between CCSD and PEF, but who would own it? I mean, you guys might collaborate, but who's responsible for making sure we get that information out?
Thank you for your question, trustee. Yes, PEF is ultimately responsible for
Okay.
the marketing, administration, and the awarding of funds.
Thank you so much. I love the strategy, so thank you.
Trustee Cavazos.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Mr. Dayhoff, and thank you, Mr. Wells, for being here today to answer our questions. This sounds like a wonderful opportunity for our students. Had a couple of questions. Some of them, Mr. Dayhoff, that I asked already during briefing, but for the benefit of our audience here. So is there any other district in Nevada right now that's taking advantage of this? I think you answered partially with one of my colleagues' questions.
Trustee, thank you for the question. Justin Dayhoff for the record. Right now, as far as we know, we're first out of the gates on this one.
I thought you said that. Thank you. And as far as, I think you said, as far as the scholarship granting organization, Trustee Biasotti had asked if there was any other entity, and I know that it does have to be under a certain category, the 501c. How long did it take? I don't know if this is for Mr. Wells or maybe for Mr. Dayhoff. I think you had said that they would have to be accredited as one of these organizations by December 31st. Is that correct? So how long did it take PEF? Were they already, was there a qualifying process they had to go through for this specific thing?
Trustee, I think I can take most of that. The specific process will be defined by the governor's office in the month or so ahead. They're also waiting for final Treasury and IRS guidance. What we do know is that it does have to be somebody who's not the school district. It does have to be a 501c3. So right now, even if the district wanted to spin up our own subsidiary 501c3, that wouldn't really be tenable. The processing times listed for Form 1023, which is the form you file to seek approval with the federal government, has, I believe, about a 191-day wait time already. So standing up a new organization wouldn't even be tenable if we had wanted to.
Okay, thank you for that. We had a constituent question as far as having to do with the vendor, because they're watching like the slides and all of that. So is it, Mr. Wells, is it your organization then that chooses the vendor?
Yes, so ultimately the SGO, I'm sorry, thank you for your question.
No problem.
So ultimately the SGO is responsible for all of the administration. So whether the various aspects of the administrivia are farmed out to vendors, whether that be for marketing or accounting or any other function, is ultimately our responsibility, yes.
Okay. Thank you for that. I have several questions. I see other people in the queue, so I'll just ask one other brief one. When we were talking about the 10% administration, did you say it was up to 10% or that 10% fee had already been decided on?
Trustee, thank you for the question. That would be up to 10% under the law.
Okay, so that is not something that we have decided on yet, or is that still in the process?
That's correct, Trustee.
Okay. Thank you so much, both of you, for your answers, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to the other folks.
Thank you. Trustee Esparza-Stoffergen.
Trustee Cavazos asked my 10% question. So the MOA has not been formalized yet because of the process of it being potentially here today. What is the process if a donor wants to put in a donation to? Can they specifically identify a certain school and it to be utilized in a certain way? And that would be kind of a process question, Mr. Wells.
Trustee, thank you for the question. No, for the purposes of the tax credit program, they direct it to the scholarship granting organization.
So then it's a pass-through. So you're holding the funds, and then it will come to the district, and we will decide. So what would be our process on how those funds will maybe be distributed? Because I'm just curious. We don't even know the potential earning of that.
Trustee, thank you for the question. Justin Dayhoff again for the record. Exactly that. This is part of what we're really waiting on some of the guidance to come through for, because one of the biggest questions is the on what. right? What is that final exhaustive list of on what eligible services are going to be narrowly defined within the potential allowable expenditures. That will set and define for us how we manage that process going forward.
And do you know the timeline with the guidelines that are coming down from the federal government?
Trustee, thank you for the question. The administration currently is a little hazy on exactly what that timeline looks like, but we do anticipate guidance mid-September.
Thank you. No further questions.
Trustee Zamora.
Thank you, Madam President. This is very exciting. This past February, I was actually in Washington, D.C. with the Nevada School Board Association, and one of the breakout sessions was talking about some of the attacks that are happening to public education, and we did talk about this portion of it. You know, this was, the administration did this to hurt public ed, but we are being very innovative in this, and I'm wondering, it's more of a comment and hope that when we finish this and we build the plane, we are able to lead nationally to other school boards of how we're helping, right? Like how we're bringing this back to public education and the programs and how it's helping with transportation and special ed and all different types of programs across. So I really hope we could get that innovative award that NASB does and NSBA does and all the other great national organizations. Thank you.
Trustee Barone.
Thank you, Madam President. Gentlemen, thank you very much, of course, again, for your presentation. I have kind of like two questions. The first one is, of course, I realize that we're getting this program off the ground. It makes sense that public education foundations, we have that relationship with them. And really, December, the end of December, early January is not a whole lot of time. And so time is of the essence. But once we actually figure out how this is going to go, I guess my first question is, does this preclude us from, in the future, maybe having different SGOs be part of this process in partnership with the district? And number two, over in the city of Las Vegas, don't look now, but we followed the lead of the city of Las Vegas and started our own nonprofit there, the North Star Fund. Because, of course, you know, when we talk about like public money, sometimes, you know, you cannot, the governments, you know, legally can't use, you know, public money for some projects that we maybe would like to. For instance, if we have we had an instance where we have a medical provider and medical issues in the city of Las Vegas were so incredibly underserved. Almost 20% of the population, only 5% of the providers for the Valley. There was a provider that wanted to come in, but they needed some funding for some just basic medical equipment. We couldn't provide it. But with our new nonprofit, we could actually take donations and actually run them through and actually provide things like medical equipment to a possible provider, especially since they're providing to low income. So I guess those are two questions. A, does it preclude us from actually having maybe a different SGO or maybe an additional one to kind of like round out services? And B, could in the future, could the district also follow other municipal entities and have their own, I guess, nonprofit SGO?
Trustee, thank you for the question. Again, Justin Dehoff for the record. No, there's nothing in the guidance that predisposes or caps the number of SGOs that could work with a given provider. So I think there are a wide range of opportunities that exist as this begins what I imagine to be a really interesting evolution of a brand new federal program.
Hi, I have some questions before I go into the second. What? Johnson's gone. He dropped off. So to jump on what Trustee Barone is saying, I think, and maybe I'm wrong, then maybe this is just my question, but I'm trying to understand the partnership that we have with PEF. Is it going to be exclusive?
Trustee, thank you for the question. Right now, we're still working on the MOA. We would bring the MOA back to the board before we approve anything in December.
Okay.
Right now, again, we don't have many options or opportunities for us, given the timeline where we're at, and we know we have a strong history and a strong partnership with the Public Education Foundation. So there's nothing that keeps us within the confines of the bill from working only with one SGO.
Okay. So I've done a ton of research on this scholarship program, and the way it reads, it sounds like it is supposed to be very individualized, for a student's needs, for a family. That's how a family can access that money for the needs of their child. So when we look at this, I'm wondering, as I'm reading through this, is PEF going to take that money and just give a lump sum to the district to be distributed accordingly? Or are families who are in the district able to apply and individually get what their needs are?
Trustee, thank you for the question. There are multiple models that a district can use to implement the program. We likely would pursue some combination of the two, one being where families would have access to request or seek individual scholarship amounts, but the other one would be to define a broad opportunity bundle of services that would pass through the district. So let's say, for example, you raise $50 million, you divide that by the total number of students in Clark County School District, and then there's a per student scholarship award back to the district at a flat rate. Either of those or a combination of the two are what are in play for us currently.
So it sounds like, so help me here, because what it sounds like is that the district is predetermining the needs of the children instead of making it more individualized?
The district would be determining the types of services and programs that would be eligible for reimbursement under the program.
So when you say bundle, do we know what would be in that bundle?
No, in part that's because we're still waiting for the guidance from the Treasury to see where it's even allowed to be expended.
So I'm just going to throw this out there because I think the way that I read it and the way that I'm interpreting it and how this process would work, I'm just wondering if it would make sense to have, and I don't like this word, but like a menu of services that the district offers, because we do so much, we have so many offerings, and be able to provide that to any qualifying SGOs so that as families are applying for those scholarships for their children at those SGOs, and I love PEF, but I'm just saying, and PEF will probably have more manpower to do the marketing, if you would, to let the community know that it's available. But that said, if the district then has that menu, if you would, of services to all the SGOs that end up being on that list for Nevada, I would think that would provide more opportunity for families to access and use the many services that the district provides. I know it's a different model, but it's just the way I was reading it.
No, Trustee, thank you for the question. Justin Dayhoff again for the record. Yeah, we do have, I think, multiple opportunities for how we implement the model. There are, in fact, most of the vendors that are currently out in the marketplace they do leverage a marketplace model, like an e-commerce sort of portfolio. So one of the things we need to figure out over the next couple of months here and quickly is whether and to what extent that's going to be the expectation that the federal government has with how the programs are administered. And if so, what that looks like from the actual technology perspective. How do we actually build this and put this together? Because that will put some guardrails around it for at least the first year, as this is going to be brand new.
Okay. Thank you for answering my questions. Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is more, are we going to be just solely working with PEF? And not to just harp on PEF, but are we going to have multiple, could we open it up to multiple SGOs? And what is the MOA structure going to look like if it's going to be a year long, 3 years?
Trustee, thank you for the question. I don't have an answer for you for that, in part just because of the timing with where we're at. If I gave you an answer, I would be making one up today, and I don't want to do that. I know that there are multiple options on the table, and we have to work together with our partners to figure out what that looks like. And before we can do that, we need the final federal guidance to define the program.
Thank you. And just curious, what is our expected revenue?
Trustee, thank you for the question. I'm a rainbows and unicorns kind of guy, and so I would love to put something at this in the tens of millions of dollars.
Okay, nice. Let's it's affirmation, right? Let's manifest. Okay.
Thank you, Trustee Cavazos.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to go back to a couple of, just not to reiterate everything, but a couple of points that my colleagues brought up, President Stevens, and there was one other person who brought it up, I can't remember who. But, you know, just for like the person watching right now who's saying, Linda, this looks like these are vouchers. And I think you made the point at the very beginning, you know, about tax credits and what this looks like. These aren't opportunity scholarships. And so when you have like the average parent maybe that's going to be asking, you know, what's this going to look like in CCSD? Is this something where a program could be like, could this pay for a kid to go to SafeKey? Could this pay for something like band or activities fees or anything where parents that could not afford that but that do not want to pull their kids out of this? You know, what can you give me some examples of what this might look like? And I know that we're at a very high level, Mr. Dayhoff, as we would say right now.
No, thank you for the question, Trustee. I mean, we do anticipate it being a pretty broad set of services. So that could range from extended school year opportunities, transportation to a dual credit course or transportation to an internship, special needs services for students, devices, technology to support students who need those, access to, again, programs that aren't necessarily available in all schools or to all students who can afford those programs. So it really, not to say all of the above to your question, but it is a bit of all of the above at this moment.
So it's pretty much still like wide open right now because we really don't know like exactly what kind of model we're going to use. Is that correct?
Trustee, that's exactly right.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. I see no one else in the queue. This is not an action item, so thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Appreciate your time. All right. With that, I will close out 3.08. Before I open up our public comment item, is there anybody else who needs to fill out a public comment card? Going once, going twice. All right, I will no longer be accepting cards for this item. I'll go ahead and open 4.01. First up, Joan Lima. This person left. Oh, okay. Please state your name for the record. Do we need to go over here to the podium? No, she's fine. You can handle the, okay, he's got the mic. Sorry, ladies. Okay.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Ebert. My name is Alex Phillips, for the record.
My name is Joan Lima, for the record.
And we are speaking on behalf of the Junior League of Las Vegas. The Junior League of Las Vegas is a nonprofit organization comprised of more than 500 diverse women.
Ladies, I'm sorry to cut you off. I have a question from legal, and I was kind of thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you introduced Ms. Lima first.
I did.
Did she do a separate card from Ms.?
I don't have a separate card from Ms. Phillips.
So are you going to allow her to
Oh,
speak?
I guess that's a question. So they both have stated their name for the record. I don't know if we need to have two cards for the record.
So then the question is, anyone else could get up and say, I want to speak with someone else without a card. So you're,
Okay, so it just
you're
needs to
setting
be-
a dangerous precedence by doing that. So
I'm-
either you can allow Ms. Phillips to fill in the card and speak on her own, or Ms.
Well,
Lima
so
would
I
have to-
closed the cards.
Well,
So then at this point, unfortunately, I'm just going to have to allow Ms. Lima to speak. Okay. Since she's the one that signed up. Thank you, ladies.
Good evening. We are speaking on behalf of the Junior League of Las Vegas. The Junior League of Las Vegas is a nonprofit organization comprised of more than 500 diverse women who are committed to making a meaningful impact in our community through volunteerism, leadership development, and training. For more than 30 years, the Junior League of Las Vegas has supported classrooms across Southern Nevada through our Education Grants program. Each year, Junior League of Las Vegas provides funding to local educators who are creating meaningful, hands-on learning experiences for students. This commitment reflects our belief that strong educational opportunities help strengthen the entire community. To date, the Junior League of Las Vegas has donated over $815,000 in education grants. In 2025 alone, we awarded a total of $80,000 to 80 teachers throughout the Clark County School District. These grants help bring new tools, technologies, and creative programs into classrooms and supported projects that enhance student engagement and academic growth. Past projects have included Girls in Competitive Robotics, Small Instruments for Small Hands, Book Buddy Bags, and Drama Lighting, among many other educator-led initiatives designed to enrich learning. In addition to working with the CCSD to spread awareness of this grant opportunity among teachers, we also wanted to speak directly to the elected body representing the 5th largest school district in the country. We believe it is important to affirm that organizations and nonprofits like the Junior League of Las Vegas deeply value the commitment our teachers make to our students, and we want to encourage student growth in every way possible. This year, we are awarding $50,000 in grants, and the application will open on August 17th and close on September 18th. Thank you for your service, your leadership, and your commitment to our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have David Ramirez. Okay, thank you. Then we have Matt Osley. Matt, are you in the room? Going once, going twice. Okay, moving on. Next up, Derica Daniel. Please state your name for the record.
Good evening, Madam President, Board, Superintendent. My name is Derica Daniel. I'm here tonight as a concerned community member, an aunt, and the Executive Director of the Nevada Emerging Leaders. Last week, my mother went to register my 14-year-old nephew for 8th grade at Cram Middle School. My nephew was retained in kindergarten, he completed 7th grade, and he has an IEP. My mother was turned away because of what the registrar described as a new policy that went into effect on August 1st. She was told that because my nephew is 14 years old, he could not attend 8th grade and he had to be advanced to 9th grade and register for high school. When my mother called me and told me what happened, I was angry because that did not make sense to me. So I read the policy myself. I read NRS 392040. I did my own research. And I could not find anything that said because my nephew is 14 years old, he has to skip 8th grade and be advanced to 9th grade. So I called the school myself. The registrar told me that there was nothing she could do, that this was a new strict policy, and that leadership was being strict about it being implemented. She also told me that a lot of parents had been complaining. I told her that I read the policy myself, and I could not find anything supporting what I had been told. She then told me she needed to do her own research on the policy and speak with her supervisor. That concerned me even more. If the person responsible for enforcing a new policy has to research what the policy actually requires, after a family has already been turned away, I have serious questions about what training and guidance were provided before it got implemented. I continued to challenge the decision until I eventually spoke with the principal. And after speaking with the principal, suddenly my nephew could register for 8th grade. I want to be very clear. I do not consider this a small mistake. Had I not read the policy myself, done my own research, and continued questioning the school, my nephew would be sitting in the 9th grade classroom right now that he was not academically prepared to be in. And if other parents were already complaining, how many other students has this happened to? I am genuinely concerned about how many young people could be affected. How many students have been potentially advanced into grades that they were not academically prepared for because the people responsible for implementing this policy did not understand how to interpret it. My concern tonight is not to attack the policy itself. I'm questioning whether if it's being implemented correctly. What guidance was given to CCSD employees? What training did they receive? And what is CCS doing to determine whether students have been incorrectly placed? Families should be able to trust that when a school tells them where their child belongs, the person making that decision understands the policy that they are enforcing. I am genuinely concerned, and I am committed to getting to the bottom of how many students have been affected. Thank you.
Thank you, Derica. Next up, we have Jane Audette.
Good evening, Madam President, Superintendent, trustees. WARJ has frequently mentioned, Jane Audette for the record, I'm speaking as an individual, but WARJ has frequently mentioned the idea about the targeting of specific support for Black students in CCSD through carefully implemented policy and regulation that will benefit all of our students. This is not an opinion. I'm going to speak tonight a little bit about the curb cut effect and the importance of carefully written discipline policies. The curb cut effect happens when you plan something that will help a very specific group of people who are struggling. And when you accidentally do it, you accidentally make life easier for everybody else in the process. The term comes from those little slopes that are cut out of concrete sidewalks. They were put there so people in wheelchairs could easily and safely cross the street. But when they appeared, everyone suddenly started using them. Parents were pushing strollers, people lugging suitcases, skateboarders, delivery workers. Basically, the concept is that solving a problem for a marginalized group of people that's struggling ends up being a win for everybody. And this is not just disability rights advocacy. Other examples include things like maternity leave, the 40-hour work week, ban the box, Head Start, free school breakfast. As the administration moves forward with revising the CCSD Code of Conduct and associated regulations, there is an opportunity before us to make that work support all of our students. Some members of the community will call for discontinuing tracking of disparate impact and discipline, rejection of mediation-based approaches in favor of detentions, suspensions, and expulsions, and encouraging immediate removals from classrooms. We can expect calls for restrictions on personal expression of all sorts. These strategies have historically fallen harder on our marginalized groups, but specifically on Black students in particular, because the norms accepted as normal are based on a white middle-class expectation. A curb cut effect can occur when schools replace harsh exclusionary punishments with supportive discipline policies to protect vulnerable students. The entire school can benefit from moving away from automatic suspensions toward clear behavior support for students that need it. Social emotional learning reduces classroom anxiety.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mr. Jeremy Heckler. After Mr. Heckler will be Mr. Gomez. Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, Jeremy Heckler, and I have the honor of serving as the president of the NEA of Southern Nevada, and I am a teacher librarian at McWilliams Elementary School. I come to you with a sense of weariness and look to you for some hope. I have heard from those who have been pushed and pulled from the summer teaching carousel. Many have searched for a sense of normalcy after the last year has played with their families and emotions. Questions of what they will teach and how long will this last. The normal push and pull of a new year strains at the faith and confidence of many, even if it's just a normal bureaucracy that is CCSD. That is today. But as you look forward to, as members of district leadership and a board, I ask that you show empathy and pragmatism as the new year progresses. Be honest with educators. Don't be the parent that shades the truth to protect us from pain. Be the one that is willing to deliver truth in a way that shows caring and understanding. As financial challenges progress with the new legislature, I ask you to show that same honesty to our elected officials in Carson City. Like many districts across the state, we are $2 per student funding increase from crisis, and we need to work together to ensure that no more reductions are necessary. This school district, even with its faults, should not be made to be a hollow shell. Two-person offices, large class sizes, and a reduction in the programs offered to our students should not become the norm. Finally, I ask this board, as a body, to treat your offices as a commitment to our community and not as a sideshow. You are here to be our representatives to ensure that the children of this community have an opportunity to succeed and be valued members of this county and this state. Show respect. As I tell my students, even if you do not like the person who sits next to you, you still have to work with them. And that includes every stakeholder in this district. Ensure that the faith that the voters have given you to sit on this board is not in vain. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gomez. After Mr. Gomez will be Amanda Nuchos. Is Amanda in the room? Okay.
David Gomez, for the record, Nevada Peace Alliance president. With Nevada Peace Alliance, I've been doing it for this part of it for 19 years. And that's about 6,980 days. If I got paid $12 an hour for 8 hours, that would be $670,000, which I don't collect. That's how much passion I have, that I put people over money, because I serve people through God. And I always make that clear. You guys were talking about SGOs, and well, I'm gonna go back to where I was going back to. I wanted to say, I don't know where this team has been for this whole duration of time, but Justin Dayhoff and his team are outstanding. They are open, they listen, and they hear everything you have to say, and they communicate extremely well with the public, the community, and with you guys. Now, going back to what I was gonna say, if you guys wanted to understand what SGOs, which I'm pretty sure that everybody that was watching didn't understand what the acronym means, and I get really tired of that, where people don't understand what acronyms means. Scholarship Granting Organizations. So just to be clear on that. But if you really wanna know how this is gonna work, instead of hounding Mr. Dayhoff, you gotta do some research to yourself. So I'm gonna help you. archerlaw.com. If you go to archerlaw.com, you have to look up Understanding the New Federal Tax Credits for K-12 Scholarship Donations. If you look that up, it's going to help you understand how this is going to work. And it's going to give you clear, transparent ways on how this works, and that how you can't earmark money, you can't do certain things, how the donations work, and how they're going to be able to be used correctly. I'm not saying that Mr. Dayhoff didn't explain this to you guys, but you do have to do your research as well. And I like to help you understand where this is, because I do own a tax office and I understand how this works. I know how EITC works. I know how all these things work. I know how the credits works for solar, things like that. So when you guys are asking these questions, please be clear and transparent when you're talking about acronyms, because I know a lot of people don't understand acronyms, especially when the sign language people are over there doing acronyms and they're like, I don't know what that means. So you have to have ADA compliance so that they understand as well. I also am very dissatisfied when I saw a video of a trustee twerking, but nevertheless, here or there, I know I'm not going to talk about that right now. And they were twerking with kids, but that's not what we do. We don't do that. And I saw the video, I got the video, and I'm not going to do that to that person, but it's wrong, and they know who they are. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And to close us out, oh, I'm sorry, not to close out. Amanda? Yeah. And then after Amanda will be Julie Kemp.
Thank you, trustees, for your time and service to our community. My name is Amanda Knuckles, for the record. I stand before you tonight to address an issue that goes far beyond a dress code or a political statement. When a school board trustee chooses to wear an anti-trans shirt to an official board meeting, it is not merely a personal expression, it is a fundamental failure of public service. As elected trustees, your primary mandate is to serve all students in this district. You're tasked with creating an environment where every child, regardless of their background, identity, or orientation, feels safe, valued, and ready to learn. When a trustee sits on the dais wearing apparel that explicitly targets and marginalizes trans youth, a dangerous message is sent. You do not belong here. Your safety is not our priority. Transgender and non-binary youth already face staggering rates of anxiety, depression, and bullying. They look to school leadership for protection, stability, and basic dignity. For a leader to bring targeted hostility into the very room where decisions about their education and well-being are made is both irresponsible and cruel. We must be clear about the distinction between personal political opinions and official public duties. Freedom of speech gives you the right to hold personal beliefs. Public office requires you to uphold a duty of care to the community you represent. You cannot effectively advocate for the well-being of all children while publicly displaying contempt for some of them. It compromises the neutrality of this board, signals a hostile environment to our students, and undermines the trust of this community that has been placed in this office. We are not asking our trustees to agree on every issue, but we are demanding a baseline of professional decorum, respect, and fundamental compassion for the children of this district. I call on this board to reaffirm its commitment to protecting all students, to condemn hostility toward trans humans, and to hold its members to the highest standards of respect and responsibility. Our students and our parents are watching, and they deserve so much better than this. Thank you.
Julie Kemp.
Good evening, members of the board and Superintendent Ebert. Julie Kemp for the record. I came here this evening and I did not have a comment planned. That being said, I felt compelled to speak when I noticed a hateful bullying message before me. I honestly do not understand how any person who represents CCSD would think it appropriate to display such hate proudly, much less during a board meeting. It would be bad enough while out in public, considering you all represent the district, whether or not you are on duty. Being a parent of a child who attends CCSD, I'm constantly in awe and admiration of how all students are welcome in their school. There appears to not be any issue with their orientation or gender. This generation is more loving and accepting than the ones before, and I believe our district and community as a whole will be better for it. That being said, the ignorance and lack of accountability being shown this evening is nothing short of shocking. This message is hurtful at best and at worst could prove to be the last straw for a child in CCSD who is struggling. Does CCSD really want such a liability? Having witnessed the long, arduous process through which the board deliberated painstakingly on the words and meanings of governance policies, I'm dismayed that this behavior is apparently acceptable. I hope you all reconsider the fact that at any moment, the words you say or show could affect the choice of a CCSD student makes between facing another day or making the opposite choice. This isn't a game. There are real children's lives at stake here. Do better. Thank you for your time.
Okay, so that concludes 4.01. I will close 4.01 and open 5.01, upcoming meeting announcement. Thursday, August 27th, 2026, 5 p.m., right here in the boardroom. And with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn. Trustee Esparza-Safragan.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Trustee Zamora.
I would like to second.
Thank you. Let's vote. Motion passes. We are adjourned.